Oh, now we're live. Mhm. Okay. Hello, I am Brian Alexander Krejci, also
Oh,
known
now
as
we're live.
Alexander740 on the internet. You may know me by my Discord handle, Alexander Galatas, and and I am the creator of the Foundry VTT module for Ultramodern 5. Yes, it's still in early access. I'm working on fixing it again because God forbid Foundry updates without breaking something. So that's gonna take a little bit. Yes, I can be contacted via email, Discord, and I think that's it. Yes, yes, and if something's wrong, bug me, and I will get around to fixing it. Sorry for the slow pace of updates. I have to work around my dad's internet usage because he does work here at our house, so that means I have to make sure the bandwidth's open for him. So yeah, yeah, internet sucks here in Eastern Washington. Ooh, all right. Oh, excellent. Hmm. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, the good one. Don't get me started. Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, that's not good. Yeah, let's tackle that problem first. Yeah. Mhm. Okay. Hello, I am Brian Alexander Krejci, also
Oh,
known
now
as
we're live.
Alexander740. Oh, is the stream running on a delay? That's my question. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. Good question. Hello, I am Brian Alexander Krejci, also
Oh,
known
now
as
we're live.
Alexander740. Oh, is the stream running on a delay? That's my question. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Why is the coffee gone? Okay. Good question. Hello, I am Brian Alexander Krejci, also
Oh,
known
now
as
we're live.
Alexander740. Oh, is the stream running on? Is it audio input? No. Hmm.
Okay. All right. All right. Okay. I think that might have had a solution there, and we are going to hit that, and we're going to see.
Excellent.
Okay. Let's see here.
All right. Can everyone hear our good friend Chris
Oh,
now?
they can hear you just fine.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing things pop up. Yep. 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 So yeah, I am. Yep, that works. Okay. So we're gonna So
Excellent.
everyone, I'm not going to go through my introduction again. Everybody knows who I am. Everybody knows who I am. Everybody knows
Yeah,
who I am. And by this point, people are joining the chat. So we've gotten past the teething pains,
excellent.
and we are talking about the Ultramodern 5 Armoury, and we were talking
Yes.
about specifically Dungeon Master's Guide and the one page of crappy rules that they put in to cover
Yeah.
this system. It is
But
very
definitely,
much, yeah, it's very much crappy. But within Ultramodern, I did play within
mhm.
their small parameters regarding
Oh yeah.
range,
Mhm.
reloading, and but not their damage potential. Their damage potential
yeah.
was out of whack.
I agree completely. Like when I made firearms rules for my D&D 5th Ed campaign, I borrowed a lot of notes from Cyberpunk 2020, and I did extensive research on how to bring firearms into D&D, and I definitely erred on the side of realism because I felt that if you could see them, you could shoot them. That was the how I operated with firearms, especially in combat scenarios where the ranges were like between 100 to 500 feet, because realistically you can make those shots and land them.
Yeah, and for me, there were certain things that were bothering me going into this book. One is I wanted to greatly expand the rule system regarding firearms and vehicles.
Oh yeah.
And then very quickly I realized, well, as someone who's on the spectrum and who has ADHD, I if you're a writer in kind of crippled with that same issue, you end up becoming an expert on something, even if you don't want to. Like when I was writing Taurus, I got really into trains, and and so I
We're
went
gonna
to
have to keep you away from Factorio then.
yeah, I went to a train museum with friends, and I'm like, hey, that's a box cab, and they're like, why do you know that? I'm like, oh, that was different than a car body train, and they're like, I don't know why you know this information, and and
Yeah.
when I started learning up about firearms, like one of the questions, one of the things statements I said in the original Ultramodern, there is one. Oh, someone just said, just a heads up, I heard Mongoose Publishing is going to drop a Traveler 5e Kickstarter in March. This is not
Really?
This is not their 5th edition. It's using D&D 5e rule set. Well, that's going to be heavily controversial coming from Mongoose. So many people are turning off of 5. Some people are trying to claim 5e is dead, so have Mongoose, of all people, embracing. Obviously, I'm not worried, because obviously we've had hyperlanes for 5e for a year now. So,
yeah. Well, I'm definitely getting Mongoose 5e for Traveler, because I freaking love Traveler, and getting people to play other systems is a pain in the butt.
yes, it is, and that's ultimately the biggest reason why people ask me why I do 5e. And I go, and I got someone come up to me and go, "Hey, are you adapting this to Numenera?" And I'd be like, "You're the first person in 4 years who has asked, so why would I? Like, why? Where's the market share?"
Like one dude in his garage.
Exactly. And so and I always look at Amethyst as a perfect example. I look at the core book of Amethyst and which ones have sold more. And the 5e has sold more than all the other ones combined. I love 13th Age. I love 13th Age, but it's the least successful of all the Amethyst core books. Second place would be Pathfinder, third place would be Savage World, and then Fate Core. And they are so way down. Like we had a run of Savage World in September because they had a Kickstarter going and there was a big sale and drive through. So we actually had a surge, but most of the time it's just going to be 5e. So I realized that I had to create the type of variety I want. I needed to be an expert. So I started learning a lot. And a good example of this was in Ultramodern 5, there is one modern crossbow called the Carbon Crossbow. That's it. Because I had made the assumption that there haven't been huge strides in crossbow technology in the last few years.
There's been a lot of development in crossbow technology.
Turns out there have been large strides in crossbow technology. And specifically, it's amazing how one angry German guy can revolutionize crossbow technology.
I know who you're talking about. I think his name is George, right? George or Spurgeon?
Yeah.
Like,
But as a result, we've had huge strides in crossbow technology. So I realized, like, oh, I'm going to have to address this. And that's kind of thing. I asked people what they would want, and this resulted in a very negative experience on Reddit, which I won't get into again.
I haven't seen that video, but yes, Reddit can be brutal sometimes.
Yeah,
I mean,
basically,
everyone has their own opinion on how things should be done, and God forbid your opinion's different.
And the assumption, of course, is that D&D does not work with ranged weaponry, and their answer is because they just didn't bother writing the rules. Like, they're there, they just don't want to put the effort into it. So they're like, okay, here's your crossbow, here's your, and then of course they put in like the ones that are crazy, which I started to realize I had to throw out, were stuff like the heavy crossbow. Heavy crossbow and the blunderbuss have a loading property, and for those people who don't know, the loading property says that no matter how many times you can attack in a turn, you can only attack with this weapon once per turn, which means that you can technically load and fire a heavy crossbow and musket in 6 seconds, which you should know is completely impossible. No person in history has ever reloaded and fired a musket in 6 seconds. The fastest musket loading is 20 seconds. And so these are some of the things that we have to take into account. And of course, we always talk about damage ratios. So what I'm going to be going through here is going through all the things that we are changing with the Armoury. This is going to lead into the Player's Handbook, the Ultramodern 5 Player's Handbook, which is going to be all the new all the classes. They're going to be revised so they'll be more compatible with this system. We're not throwing out your rules are still compatible, but we're creating more variety.
Does this mean more work for me in the Ultramodern?
Yeah, this is going to be considerably more work. Assuming you want to take it on, because there is a lot.
I might as well.
So you can't really see it, but you can see the fact that this file, now this is not obviously, we're not seeing a layout file because I don't have my artwork yet. This is 473 pages and 197,000 words.
Dear God, 197.
So yes, 100. Yeah, so we're going through this, and yeah, anyone in the chat, go ahead and say hi if you haven't already. If you have any questions, that's the whole point of this. We'll be dealing with this, answering questions, and then going through it. And we're going to go through what's included. We all know this. We know about ability scores, the fact that we are expanding this just to make sure that people are 100% clear on how ability scores work. For example, there is a new category of gun. I've split the super heavy. We have other and publishing makes a sci-fi setting as well that uses their level up advance. Oh yeah, like when Ultramodern 5 came out, Ultramodern 5 was alone, and Ultramodern 5 went mithril, and I think that told everybody that non-sci-fi. I mean, I never considered all the other non-sci-fi, non-fantasy settings competition. About the only one that really comes close to being competition would probably be Everyday Heroes. But they've kind of politically imploded, so I'm not really worried about them right now. But going back to what I said before, we used to have heavy weapons, and then it would go super heavy, and that would be it. Super heavy has now been split. We've actually redivided the weapons by weight. Small arms are still the same. Two-handed and heavy are all basically the same, but heavy weapons we specifically defined to being up to 25 pounds. And then super heavy go to 150, and then we have a new class, which are the massive weapons. And massive weapons are 150 pounds and larger.
So stuff like, mortars and howitzers and all that?
Yeah, tank weapons, just because we are incorporating a lot of new weapons. At last count, we were probably in excess of 850 firearms.
I'm curious, are you going to include a caliber-based weapon system, or is it still going to be just like heavy cannon, light cannon, stuff like that?
I was tempted, but at the end of the day, I realized how complicated it was. So bullets are entirely defined by their damage quotient. You can define what that caliber is. So you can sometimes scale up your damage quotient if you modify your weapon to take a higher caliber. I'm not going to say what that caliber is. A lot of Kentucky ballistics, a lot of deep dives in Kentucky ballistics, forgotten weapons. Basically, if they're talking some weird weapons, that's what I did when I was doing Taurus. I would watch a lot of forgotten weapons and threw a lot of stuff in.
Forgotten weapons is amazing.
Exactly. Liam and all that. And then for me this time, it's been a lot of Kentucky ballistics, a bunch of other stuff, and then a lot of personal research.
Too bad FPS Russia doesn't make videos anymore. He was fun.
Yeah, he was also insane. How does one get these?
Yes, he almost killed himself with a bunch of explosives.
Oh, he was the one. Somebody was asking me. They were confusing the injury Kentucky Ballistics got with. It was FPS Russia that almost blew himself off, and then
Yes.
Kentucky
Listen.
Ballistics almost died from a 50 caliber blowing up in his face. How does one
Yes.
get these new books in hardback, print on demand? Yes, all these books are print on demand. Offset printing is currently kind of discontinued until we can get books cheaply printed in China and cheaply shipped to the U.S. without us being hosed.
Oh, good luck with that.
Yeah, so a few things. We have Pacific rules wrong ability scores. I've just refined this. Dexterity is the default. If you have a heavy weapon, you can use strength instead of dexterity. If you're using a massive weapon, you can't carry it, period. So you can actually technically use dexterity or intelligence if you're using a howitzer, because a lot of times it's nothing with dexterity. It's about hand-eye coordination. It's more just about eyes being able
Yeah.
to calculate trajectory and parabola. So we've given you the option to use intelligence.
I got a character in my Sunday Ultramodern 5 game that's a scientist, Dr. Dresden. He would love to use weapons that require intelligence to fire.
Well, we used to
That'd be great.
have options for ladders, and here we've actually, some people have been asking about how ladders alter. This is basically right here how ladders do alter them. Some people may say these are a little different, and this is what's probably going to be going into the new Ultramodern 5. Here's something we've also added: acoustics. For those people, there are levels of detail that you can completely ignore if you want.
Nice.
We have a section of optional rules you can play with. Acoustics is one of them. I wanted to make sure people were aware of how much noise, because we have weapons with silencers and suppressors and so forth. And for those people who are curious, suppressors, there are two levels of suppressed firearms. There's one that's going to be a quiet and one that's going to be a silent. Basically, if you want to have a silent weapon, you need to have a suppressor and you need to have subsonic ammunition.
Yes.
So you have to pay for alternative ammunition. So do you guys take any inspiration from Esper Genesis for your weapons? Okay, so I have a standard policy.
I've heard them in a while.
I've heard of Esper Genesis, but standard policy is I do not read any third party non fantasy content. I have a standard policy. I'm sure they're putting out some amazing stuff, but I have to make sure that I approach things from my perspective. I don't want saying, "Oh, you stole this from Esper Genesis," and I don't want to say about the only one that came close. I have read Fulamates and oh god, the Civil War book. They sent me their PDFs, and I did look at what they did, because specifically I wanted to move. I didn't want to do what they did. I think they did a really good. So if you were looking for specifically a Civil War era, then I think you should definitely look for that. They've put a lot of really interesting rules. I decided to go into a completely different direction. But beyond that, I have not read Hyperlanes. I've not read Gene Funk. I've not read Esper Genesis. So I have a policy. I'm sure and I think they're great. And the reviews have been really good. I think people should definitely jump and try them out. But for policy, I can't read them. So here are the rules for stuff here for volume, and until you get into the concussive, and that's the only time where there's actually some kind of deafening rule put in. And initially I just had guns, but I put in guns and vehicles just so people can understand. Like if you're hearing a large vehicle, the classes, there's only like DC 20, DC 15, DC 10, DC 5, DC 10, and in calling it a day. And so people could be confused why a firearm and a car are in the same category. This is like 40 dB of range, which is a massive range. But so the idea that most unsuppressed pistols, rifles, and shotguns are in the same category as a civilian, and I say the fact that, yes, a gun is louder, but it's also sudden and concussive. A vehicle is a constant hum that makes locating it. This is basically the idea of how quickly can someone hear something from a distance. And then we have a rule for distance right here, which tells you how much it's difficult. So if you're listening, if you have a silencer at DC 20 from 2,000 feet away, you're never going to hear it. DC 35, you're never going to hear it. Stuff like that. And then we say rules about suppressor, and we state specifically that it's not an off switch. A suppressor reduces your volume by 1 step. And then subsonic ammunition will reduce it by 1 step. So if you have a firearm and you've got both of them, and there actually are some firearms in the game that are so quiet that the click of the gun is louder than the bullet, and those are mentioned in this. We have sizes, and sizes are the same. We've been around for a while. We haven't changed that. Going through spending movement, that's been in Ultramodern since the first. Tech levels have been changed slightly. In Amethyst, tech levels were 0 for everything that didn't use a battery. Tech level 1 was battery usage, and then we went from there. Here we
Yeah.
have shifted to be technological development. So TL0 was everything up until probably late 19th century. Tech level 1 was World War I, World War II, Cold War. Tech level 2 was 1970s to early 2000s. And tech level 3 is kind of modern day because that's incorporating some of the stuff. And then 4 or 5 are futuristic. So tech level 3 is stuff we have now up until probably mid the 21st century. So we got here, so we're going through there and jumps through that. We haven't played with skills. Skills are basically unchanged from Ultramodern 5, so we'll skip that.
You.
I have evened out power usage. I know we were always going with the basic, medium, and high cell. If you have a tech level 3 or more, all batteries are now rechargeable. You can recharge all your batteries as part of a long rest. And tech level 4 and 5, you can basically never worry. You'll never run out of power. And this is a way of trying to make things easy. Yes, there are. If you have a tech level 0, you want to put batteries, there are kind of ways you can play around with steam power and boiler power, but that's going to be mostly a GM discretion.
But I'm just imagining a steam-powered android that has to eat coal every morning for breakfast.
Will this Armoury work with Affinity? I haven't bought Affinity yet, but I know someone is selling the set. Plan on getting it. So Affinity is one of the reasons why I'm doing this, because I learned a lot from Affinity. A lot of Affinity content is in here, but as it turns out, unlike the Monster Manual, where it's like 80% reused content, this is almost 80-90% new content, which is a little frustrating because I wasn't expecting this to take so long.
Oh, yeah.
So where do you?
I remember getting Affinity back in the day, and I was really impressed how much you put out. Like, I think I unboxed the books in a video, and I sent it to you a while ago. It was really cool.
Oh, thank you. So yeah, Affinity was primarily a way of trying to convert video game ideas. So that's why like Conestoga is a giant video game conversion, and Sparkplug Chronicles is another video game conversion. We'll probably do that for a future video, but yeah, Sparkplug is actually an extraction shooter, which is I don't think anyone's ever done for a tabletop role-playing game. So the answer to the question, will this Armoury work with Affinity? Yes, absolutely, because there's a lot of carried over content, but all the new content will work as well. Once again, one thing I didn't throw any magic, so this is all weapons. So if you want to do like enchantment, you'll have to either use Affinity or use October's Arcane Almanac, which has enchantment rules for guns. So that is not in here.
I do not want to think how hard that's going to be to adapt into Foundry.
What, October's Arcane Almanac?
The enchantments.
Oh yeah, I thought you were going to
basically. There's just a lot of coding involved, and it's going to be really finicky. It's gonna,
yeah.
Oh gosh,
Vision and concealment have been changed. It's not. I haven't specifically thrown out dark vision. We just had to define, because there's basically 3 or 4 different versions. So before, if you had an armor, you would have dark vision to 60 feet. Here we're actually trying to create accurate and so we have low light vision, image intensification, and there's actually 2 different types of low light vision. Starlight scopes from TL1 and the TL2 modern ones, 300 feet and 3,000 feet. And yeah, you can be blinded if you get that. And then we have thermal vision, infrared, and how you can counteract that. And then the new fusion systems, and we have rules for radar, motion seismic, and so forth. So it's not just normal vision and dark vision. In the old D&D, we used to have that. The old D&D, we used to have low light vision and dark vision. And now it seems like they've thrown that out, and now you either have dark vision or you just have normal vision. And here we've actually included rules. So like thermal vision, you are seeing thermal. You can see invisible creatures with thermal vision. But it's extremely ineffective and extremely cold. You can have a thermal shield that'll block you. And we also have rules for obscurement. So thermal vision, for example, you can see through smoke and light foliage with thermal vision. But in order to counteract that, we also have variations of smoke.
Oh, yeah.
Why? Because there are different variations of smoke. And because as I was getting to vehicles, we noticed that, or I noticed that there was tons of vehicles that would fire at that smoke and chaff, and I wanted to have rules for that. So tech level 1, standard obscurant, and then tech level 2, multispectrum, and then match, and then kind of futuristic advanced nanoparticle obscurant. And we have
Oh
rules
yeah.
are like, for example, tech level 1, right? Obscurant defeats normal vision, only including low light vision and dark vision. However, it is not effective against fusion, motion, seismic, thermal, or sonar systems. Tech level 2 blinds you to thermal vision, but not the rest. And then the tech level 3 makes you almost entirely obscured with everything except sonar or motion. And this is some new things we're playing with. I was trying to figure out how I was going to do ranges.
Yeah.
Because, as you were saying, if you could see it, you could shoot it. And
Exactly.
there's a couple ways to do that. I decided to keep pistol ranges effectively the way they are.
Oh, that's fine.
But I've given people ways of extending that artificially through sometimes skills, modifications, and simply other rules. One
Yeah.
example is bracing. We have
Oh yeah.
two. We
Bracing
have two
definitely helps.
rules with comes to one-handed small arms. If you hold it two-handed, for example, you can extend the range by 50%. Right?
Yeah.
That was my counter. Some people were asking for like, oh, if you're holding it like the Weaver stance, which is a feature for one of the prestige classes,
Yes.
you get bonuses to hit if you hold a one-handed weapon two-handed. But
Hmm.
everybody gets the rule that if you hold a one-handed weapon with two hands, you could extend the range. So you're not getting better accuracy, but you're just getting more a stable platform. So the range is extending.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I have shot a revolver one-handed, and let me tell you, you're gonna have a lot of trouble hitting the broadside of a barn with a one-handed revolver. It takes skill.
yeah.
Two-handed definitely helps.
Yeah, exactly. So we have rules for holding a one-handed, two-handed, and then we have bracing.
Oh yeah.
Bracing, for example, if you brace it against a wall or cover, or if you're prone, you extend the range of a weapon by 50%.
Yeah.
Normal and long range are increased by 50%. You can brace all weapons except for massive super heavy because they're automatically going to be braced. And
Yeah.
then we have mounting. And mounting and bracing are basically the same thing, but mounting is a permanent mount. Massive
Mhm.
weapons have to be mounted at all times.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on a Mars book for Amethyst? Um, and then someone says Mars book is coming soon. I don't know what you mean by Mars.
Do you mean, like, actually being on Mars in the Amethyst verse? Because, like, if I remember correctly, it's kinda hard for people to get into space in Amethyst.
Well, of course, I'm thinking of whether or not I'm thinking of the Kim Stanley Robinson books. I'm that old.
Oh, Red Mars, Green Mars, Blue Mars.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a very
I tried reading Red Mars back in the
that's a
day,
deep cut.
and, God, I
Unless
think
it's
I
something
got
else
through,
we're
like, the
talking about.
first,
If it's
like,
something else,
20
please mention. It says
pages.
Mars book coming soon. Um, I love my limited edition Amethyst books. I know they're amazing. I got them. You can't see them because they're covered. But yes, I have those as well.
Mhm.
So Maximize died natural 20. And that hasn't changed. Natural 20 effects haven't changed.
Yeah.
And let's see here. 5e Dungeons and Dragons rules. Traditional ranges of 400 feet. We've played with that a bit. And we can see normal range. And so we've also completely rewritten how scopes work. A lot of scopes play around. Some of them give you accuracy, but some of them also extend your effective range. The idea that normal range is
Oh, yeah.
vision based. Basically, how far someone could feasibly spot a target with 50-50 vision, or 20-20 vision, sorry. And then long range is effectively the effective range. And we'll see when we get into the optional rules, there's actually an extreme range, which is ×4 normal range. And that's very, very hard to hit. So like technically a weapon can fire considerably. And when we get to the artillery weapons, we will see weapons that have ranges in the miles.
Oh, yeah. Okay, Mike, I have a quick question about the ranges. Why is everything an Imperial?
Because it's D&D. D&D has been an imperial system since day one. Yes, it would be nice to have it in meters.
Oh,
Trust
God,
me, because unfortunately, whenever I look up a weapon or anything, it says, "Well, this is the effective range in meters," and I have to go to Google and convert it to feet.
I
It's
feel your pain.
it's a little frustrating.
What
Um,
I did when I ran my Star Wars game, I told my players, yeah, 5 feet equals 1 meter, and I told them, yeah, we're doing everything in metric because I used to
oh, did I lose you there? Oh no! Oh no! We lost him. Quick, come back.
Are you kidding me?
Oh,
Can you hear me?
I can hear
Am I
you.
back?
Oh yeah. Wait, we're slowly coming back. All right.
And okay, I'm sorry. So I was going on a tangent about welding. So as someone who's worked in fabrication and construction, I hate Imperial. It
I'm
sucks.
and I'm Canadian.
Look, I hate it. I hate Imperial so much. When I was like doing fabrication work, I'm just like, why can't this be metric? Why can't this be metric?
Yeah. So, and the answer to the question, of course, it's D&D standard, and that's why we have to use it.
Yeah, that is understandable.
So we're looking at, so this is some of the definitions here. So heavy weapons have been specifically defined as being 20.5 to 50 pounds. I've been very conscious to making sure my weights in my tables kind of fit. You have to have a strength 13 to use it, otherwise you get disadvantage. So we've added that. Heavy weapons possess a heavy property, so we've defined it with a heavy property. Small creatures have disadvantage on attack rolls with heavy weapons. Additionally, you have
Makes
disadvantage on your attack rolls with a heavy weapon if both your dexterity and strength scores aren't at least 13. The strength requirement can be ignored if the gun is braced/mounted. If you attempt to fire this weapon unmounted, unless your strength is at least 13, you have a disadvantage and then knock prone immediately after. So this is a bit more punishing.
Yeah.
And then we have because you're cumbersome nature, if you move or are moved, you have disadvantage with the attack rolls as well. So we've added a bit more complexity. Heavy weapons are harder to utilize unless you are strong. Massive weapons are over 150. They have a massive property. A medium-sized user cannot carry a massive weapon. It has to be either on a platform or vehicle or held by a mech.
Quick question: is there a caveat if someone's, say, a fully borged out cyborg?
For me, I said no, only because it comes down to a clumsy nature. If you're a humanoid cyborg, yes, you'll have enough strength to wield a super heavy weapon or a heavy weapon. Massive weapons are just physically too large. To give you an example, massive weapons are tank shells, artillery emplacements. Those are generally weapons that are just simply not easy for even a Borg to carry. Small arms, one-handed. I don't think those have been changed, although we specifically do add a couple new things. If your strength is at least 13, one-handed small arms that are 3 pounds or less without the light property gain the light property. So if your strength is high enough, you can wield two weapons, hopefully a bit easier.
I'm now thinking of like Terminator or Duke Nukem now.
Yeah.
Dual wielding LMGs.
If the one-handed small arm weighs 3 pounds or more, you must wield this weapon with two hands or have at least a strength of 13. Otherwise, you have disadvantage on attack rolls. So because there are so many pistols now, we had to define the difference between how they work. So, for example, one-handed small arms have a relatively short range. These values can be extended using two hands. If you wield a one-handed small arm with two hands, the normal long range is increased by 50%. This can be extended by using a pistol stock, which is a new rule. If wielding a one-handed small arm with two hands, normal long range is increased by 100% with a stock. So you can continually add in ranges, not necessarily accuracy, but just ranges. So suddenly a 50-foot range can suddenly go to 150 feet.
Makes sense.
If you're careful. Yeah.
I remember watching. I think it was TBFV. They did an experiment with 9mm, and they got a pistol platform, and they got the 9mm round to travel to at least 300 meters, and they said it was still deadly out to that range.
Yeah,
which I thought was pretty interesting.
Yeah. When we get to two-handed weapons, we specifically say two-handed weapons are 20.5 to 50 pounds. And we have the same rule here as before, but we have this penalty is actually different now. So because of their cumbersome nature, if you move or move more than 5 feet, you suffer a penalty due to attack rolls. In the previous book, it was a flat -2. That has now changed based on the weight of the weapon. If it's under 10 pounds, it's -2, 11 to 20, -3, 20 pounds and up, -4. If you have a bullpup weapon, new rule, that is reduced by 1, because there are bullpup weapons, and I was trying to figure out a rule to make the bullpups effective, other than just being the fact that they were a bit smaller. So super heavy weapons are 50 to 150 pounds, and they have the SH property. Similar to the heavy weapon, your attack rolls, your dexterity and strength scores have to be at least 17 if you want to wield these weapons.
Yeah.
The strength requirement can be ignored if the weapon is mounted. If you attempt to fire this weapon unmounted, you have disadvantage on the attack roll. And then you come with a tripod, and then we have damage values. Here is our new damage value table.
All right, let me take a look.
Because you'll see, yes, in case you're wondering, there is a weapon in the game that will do every damage listed here. So
Hmm.
we have the 2 scales. Infantry weapons are all standard dice rules. They top out at 2d12. Cannons and rockets all have a maximized die, so something like this is technically 2 die 6, but one of the dies is maximized, and that
Okay.
goes all the way up to 4 die 12 plus 48.
Ooh, wow. Okay, that's a lot of damage.
That is a considerable amount of damage. Those are generally reserved for artillery shells and missiles. And funny thing is that these can actually do more damage because a 4 die 12 plus 48 missile or a howitzer that does a direct hit actually does double the dice. So it's 8 die 12 plus 96 damage.
Okay, that'll make a dragon say uncle.
Yeah, and rightly so. I mean, if you're firing a naval cannon, because that's in the game, and
Oh
you
yeah.
direct hit a dragon, you should be able to get its attention.
Oh, definitely, especially an adult dragon. I think a naval cannon could probably one shot a adult dragon if you score a direct hit. I think that's fair.
Exactly.
I'd like to see a dragon walk off, say
a Patriot missile.
a Yamato's like 500 millimeter cannon shell.
Oddly enough, I haven't even gotten to those. I haven't even got to the big guns. Like because some of the most of these are like they're names of guns. And I'm like, okay, am I gonna put in like Big Bertha, like Mon Men's and so forth? I'm like, okay, sure, why not? When we get to damage penetration, I have played with the rule. This is going to be a bit controversial.
Okay.
There are 4 levels of damage resistance and damage penetration now.
Okay.
And to do that, you have to basically look at this table here.
Okay. Yeah, I'll wait for the stream to catch up so I can see too.
Yeah. Eventually, we'll scroll it up. And in damage category specifically, you can your damage resistance only applies to piercing, bludgeoning, and slashing, which are the 3 most common damage outputs in the game.
Makes sense.
And if you have like light resistance, then that damage resistance applies to damage values of 10 or less. So if someone does 5 points of damage, you have light resistance, you can cut that damage in half. However, if you suffer between 11 and 25 points of damage, then it goes through without resistance.
Yeah.
However, if someone has medium resistance and you get struck with like 1 point of damage or 2 points of damage, or you don't take any damage at all.
Okay.
So there's those rules. For example, if you have massive damage resistance, then basically 51. I think it's like I'm still playing with to make this kind of understandable to people. But the idea of the fact that in this table here, if it's AP, that means the damage. For example, a light like 5 points of damage with an AP property, you're taking full damage.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if someone's doing 50 points of damage, then you're taking full damage. So regular AP and AP plus weapons don't. All of them are red, so all of them do full damage.
Yeah, makes sense.
If, however, you have massive resistance and you take 25 points of damage, that's half. No, sorry, it's 11.25. If it's AP plus, you're still taking half damage. If it's AP or regular, you're taking no damage at all. So if you have massive resistance, you can basically slug off 25 points of damage or less. And I think I can see where this can be confusing for some people. So the idea, the fact that if you have heavy resistance, unless someone has armor piercing, you can ignore damage from 25 points or less. And when someone has armor piercing weaponry, then you're still taking half damage. And if they have an AP plus weapon, which is pretty rare, like railguns have AP plus, and obviously certain high capacity weapons do AP plus, then you're taking full damage. There's rarely going to be an AP plus weapon that does only 1 to 10 points of damage, but the table's here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, I have a quick question. Since we're talking about guns, will people take damage if they don't wear hearing protection?
Well, I could play with that. I didn't want to be that much of an ass. I mean, yes, if we were to scroll back up to the acoustic section, we can say the fact that you can be deafened, but whether or not you're going to be actually taking permanent hearing damage, that's one of the things. Like I could throw that in the optional rule: the fact that in enclosed spaces, a firearm can deafen people and potentially cause hearing loss. But
so yeah, I was running a Naruto 5e game, and one of the enemies had a minigun. And I told my players, yeah, roll Constitution saves, because that thing's loud.
Oh
It's
yeah, like
shooting 7.62 at like 3,000 rounds a minute. So yeah, y'all need to roll con saves, and they were bitching incessantly about that. I'm just like, guys, you have sensitive hearing, so yeah, roll con saves.
so when we get into here, I have rules that are perfectly. Someone was asking this in the comments of Discord, and we do have weapon swapping and readiness rules, just to make sure
Oh
people
yeah.
are aware of how they work. We're not actually changing much. This is basically what most people play with. Dropping weapons for free. Drawing a weapon requires a bonus action
Hmm.
unless you have a quick draw holster. Drawing a two-handed weapon requires an action. Stowing a weapon requires a bonus action. And this is where you get to, someone says, wait a second, it takes me a full action to ready my rifle? That's BS. Well, I go, well, you have to understand how the rules work. This is a
Oh yeah.
situation where if the weapon is stowed, that means it's not in a place that's easily accessible. So
Makes sense. Yeah.
yeah, so you have a quick draw holster, right? So if you have a one-handed weapon, if you have a quick draw holster, you can draw your weapon for free once you're on your turn.
Hmm.
And then the quick draw sleeve, which is the same thing for pocket weapons. But then we have a sling. A sling is for two-handed weapons. And so if you see people walk around with a sling, their weapon is down beside them. And that means you can draw your slinged two-handed weapon for free once on your turn.
Yeah, makes sense.
Which means, once again, if you have a sling and a quick draw sleeve, you can switch from a two-handed weapon to a one-handed weapon for free on your turn without dropping either of them. So once again, we give you the hardware to realistically be as awesome as you want to be. You just don't get it for free,
Oh
right?
yeah, I like that approach actually. It's pretty ingenious.
Yeah, and we see the same thing with different ammunitions and and it also is a way. And people say, why? Like once we get to the reloading rule, we're gonna piss off a lot of people. And the
Oh
reason
yeah,
why is people are like, well, you're nerfing these old weapons. Suddenly, my musket does less damage than other 5e muskets or even the official 5e musket. And I go, because that musket is unrealistically powerful for what it is,
oh
right?
yeah, definitely.
We have to like if you have a modern a spar rifle, like I can't remember the spear, I can't, not even an AK-47, but the successor, like the brand new, like 10-pound assault rifles that they have coming out. Yeah,
Yeah.
you can reload that weapon with a bonus action, the same ability that they gave the blunderbuss, because turns out you can't load a blunderbuss in 6 seconds, but you can
Yeah.
reload modern firearms in 6 seconds. And I saw
Hmm.
videos showing guys do that. And the same thing goes with how long it takes to reload a shotgun. It's like, why
Oh
does it
yeah.
take so long to use a shotgun? I go, well, maybe if you had a side saddle holder, you could do it faster. So we
Yeah,
give you
definitely.
the hardware that modern firearm enthusiasts now use to make their job efficient. I'm not going to give you that for free. You have to do the
Mhm.
same thing that actual firearm experts do in order to improve the speed of the reloading, which we'll get to. Hey,
Okay,
we
makes
got to
sense.
it. We're
Oh.
at loading now. Let's see how many people get angry at this. So
Oh, okay.
there are 3 ways specifically to load a weapon. You can either
Uh-huh.
do it with an action, bonus action, or you can spend movement. I've been
I like
idea of
movement a
spending
lot, yeah.
movement. Obviously, we used to have a move action, which was really nice and convenient, but now we just have movement. And
Mhm.
movement is a resource. Everything on your turn is a resource. Back in the old 3.5, 3rd edition 3.5, we had a full round action. We don't have that
Oh,
anymore.
yeah.
So we have action, movement, and a bonus action. So some
Mhm.
things that require movement, and which makes sense. A lot of people stop and they hold still as they reload. There's a really hilarious video among many videos I watched of
Mhm.
one guy trying to reload a musket while running at full speed, and he was very good at what he did, but you can see how incredibly clumsy it was.
Oh, yeah.
So you can, and I've been very generous with some of these reloadings. If you want, you can spend your whole action doing things, action, bonus action, and movement, and then you are completely out of commission for the turn, reloading your weapon, but you are going to reload it faster.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and most of the times it's pretty easy to say that you should have a free hand in order to do this. So
Mhm.
let's go into stuff like a breech loader. So a breech loader
Ooh,
is any break action weapon. So this is any shotgun that
okay.
splits open, any rifle that opens up. It is also revolvers with a swing open cylinder.
Makes sense, yeah.
I know someone's going to say that's not a break action, but you're still seeing a section of the weapon opening up for you to load. You just get to, but the
Close enough.
advantage of a break action or breech open cylinder revolver is the fact that you can use a speed loader to load all 5 rounds or 6 rounds, whatever the case may be, into that weapon. So that's
I have a question about breech loaders. Sorry,
yeah.
sorry to interrupt, Blake.
No, yeah.
Would bolt action rifles be considered breech loaders?
So it depends on it. If it's a weapon that you just load in, then it's
Like
just
an internal magazine.
yeah, it's just it's a loading weapon. The difference between a breech load and a regular load is that you have to take a bonus action to open up or break open the weapon.
Okay.
So that's the big difference here, where you have to use a bonus action to open the breech, and then empty shells as part of that action. And then with action or movement, not a bonus action, you can reload 1 shot into the weapon. Right?
Right. Makes sense.
And then you have to close the breech with a bonus action, which means if you want to basically, like a shotgun, for example, you could use your bonus action to open it. You can use your action and movement to load in 2 rounds into the shell. And then on your next, before you act, you can use your bonus action to lock it up.
Okay. Makes sense.
Right? And that's, once again, being generous to the fact that you are able to open up a breech of a shotgun, reload 2 shells, and close it up in 6 seconds.
Yeah, you can easily do that.
Yeah. Now, once again,
shooters, they can do that really fast.
This is the standard thing. Once again, once we get to classes, you're going to see class features. So someone says, wait a second, I've seen professional guys reload a shotgun in 3 seconds. Yeah, because they have 5 levels in that class.
Exactly. Yes. You got to be trained to do that.
So when people say, this is me loading a shotgun, and I'll tell you, if I'm loading a shotgun, it's going to take about 30 seconds. So I'm being
your time.
So the revolver special rule does allow, once again, the use of speed loaders. And then I make a note. Someone's going to tell me that Pacific Revolver is a loading gate and not a swing out or top break and whatever. Tanks are a different rule. Tanks are technically part of the similar category because they are a gigantic breech loading, but you can't use movement. You can only use actions, and it takes 3 actions to reload a tank. So generally, you have people helping you.
Yes. Definitely. Like, there's a reason why people are trained loaders, because those shells are goddamn heavy. They're like 150 pounds sometimes.
Exactly. Cap and ball is a new property. So cap and ball is a very specific type. So if people will know, and this is something I had to learn, because I actually had to do quite a bit of research. There is your traditional musket where you had to, and we'll go into musket loading and the whole process of having to push the ball in and then jam it, and then you had to do all this. And a cap and ball was a kind of intermediary between your musket and your cartridge weapons.
Yeah.
A lot of people, and I discovered this just recently, that a lot of people think that, the Colt, the metal cartridge Colt that you see in all the Western movies was the weapon that defined the Old West, as he called it.
Nah, it was the cap and ball.
Yeah, and it was the cap and ball revolver because 90% of people who were gun owners owned their parents' Civil War firearms. And so most people had this. And of course, the funny thing is, the first time I was asking people about what guns do you want to put in, one of the first requests was, can I have the Lamont revolver? I'm like, you're like, and the thing is, 90% of the people who say they want the, are there critical failures? Someone's question on the topic of tanks are there rules for critical failure for something like an autoloader? I don't know if I wanted to get that specific. We have a bunch of guns with the FTF, which is a fail to fire property, and it just means the weapon jams if you roll a natural 1. I'm not sure if I'm there yet, if I want to get really pissy, but hey, I mean, if you have an idea for a rule, pop it in the comments, post it in a comment after the video gets shared. It might find its way into the game. This is all OGL anyway.
I think one rule you should have for tanks with auto loaders is that if they get hit by an ATGM, their turret gets tossed away.
Well, I don't have any specific damage rules, but once again, we talked about the massive penetration. An AGM generally has an AP plus property. It can do up to 96 points of damage. So it's penetrating, and we also have alternate ammunition. There is one of the alternate ammunitions for a tank is a shell that does bludgeoning damage to it, but then deflects a lot of damage inside. So a bunch of people inside take damage.
Wash head rounds.
So anyway, going back to the Lamont, whenever someone says they want a Lamont revolver, I said, "Hey, you watched the first season of Westworld. Good for you," because I don't think anybody knew that the Lamont revolver. Now, funnily enough, Ed Harris in that movie is using a modified Lamont revolver that actually takes cartridge shells. So it's a very rare weapon. Lamont revolvers actually I think they were a 9-cylinder because they didn't take cartridges. They took shot. But very specifically, here's the procedure for loading a Lamont revolver. You have to put in a paper round, which is a little packet of paper. In muskets, you tear that open and you would pour it directly in the musket. With these cap and balls, you would shove the paper shell, the paper cartridge in. Then you would put the ball in. And then there was a lever on the gun that you would have to go to push that ball. And you had to do that for every single chamber. And you still weren't done because this was also a cap weapon. It was a percussion cap.
Put the percussion caps on.
And you had to put a percussion cap on the other side. And if you had a cap pen, that was fast. But if you didn't have a cap pen, guess what? You had this was a 3 or 4 minute procedure. So I said, hey, you want and Taurus, I justified it with the fact that the more annoying the weapon, the more enchantments you can put in. So a Lamont revolver could have like 5 enchantments. But oddly enough, some of the funny ones were magical cap replacements. Some of the modifications were simply to make the gun less annoying. So the cap and ball, you have to open, release the shells if that has it. You have, with an action or movement, you can refill 1 chamber. Then you have to use percussion. If you have percussion cap, you can add all the percussion caps with an action. If not, you got to do a bonus action or movement to put 1 on each side.
Yeah.
Then you got to close the weapon. So if you wanted to reload a remote revolver completely, you're looking at 10 to 12 actions.
Jesus.
So my suggestion, carry 2.
Yeah,
that's what the guys. That's what people did in the Old West. If they had if they were stuck with a cap and ball revolver, they generally had 2 or 3 weapons. Which is the reason why we look at people in the pirate movies whenever they had a dragoon, they had 6 dragoons. If you've ever seen the movie Master and Commander: Far Side of the World, which is one of the greatest naval movies in history.
Yes, I have.
There's actually a scene of one guy this kid walking around, and he has 7 or like maybe 10 or 12 dragoons hanging off of him, and they're just grabbing guns off of him whenever they run out of ammunition because nobody's reloading during a fight. Yeah. So that cap and ball, there's actually more weapons with that property than you might think, especially in the Old West. When we get to feeds are the high capacity weapons. But we actually do have rules to the fact that you can't quick load a feed weapon because it's generally going to have a box ammunition, which means you don't have a box hanging off of your holster. So generally you have to take it off your backpack. And this is when somebody who is another player, this reminds me a bit of how long it takes to, this reminded me a lot of Helldivers, because in Helldivers there are weapons. Like I actually use an autocannon in Helldivers. I don't play Helldivers anymore, but I did use an autocannon. And it takes a while to reload the weapon. But if there's somebody behind you, they can reload that weapon and you're firing constantly. And so this is an example of if there's somebody there to help you, you can reload a feed weapon in no time. If you're doing it by yourself, it's going to take 3 or 4 actions to reload your feed weapon.
Yeah, there's a reason why machine gun teams operate in teams.
Yeah. So that's something we've outlined with feed. Loading or loading rule is your tube fills, right? Rockets fall into that category as well. And once again, it's the same thing. You can use an action or movement to load 1 round in the weapon.
Oh, speaking of tube fills, is Metal Storm a thing in this book?
Well, Metal Storm has always been a thing in this book. I never called it that. In Ultramodern and in Amethyst, they were called electronically stacked projectiles, ESP. Yes, so that's been in the game since 2010. We've had ESP weapons.
I just wanted to make sure they're still in there because they're pretty dang cool.
Even though the company's out of business.
Oh, they are?
Yeah, they're dead. Yeah, they're no longer around. Rip. But ESP weapons are always going to have ESP. I'm going to have gyrojets and ESP. I'm always going to have the sci-fi, the cool stuff. I was actually surprised of, like, for example, another example, we're talking about the fact that when we get to a standard magazine, the fact that unlike D&D, in the DMG where you can reload the magazine of a weapon with a bonus action. Almost
Yeah.
every weapon requires an action to reload. But if you have a mag clip connector, you can now reload your weapon with a bonus action. If, for example, you had a shotgun and had um, a belt a belt I can't remember the name now because I just mentioned it. You can actually reload your weapons faster with that. You I try to include all the stuff that John Wick does.
Yes, yes. I need to sit down and watch those movies because they're pretty cool.
Here are the incredibly annoying muzzle loading rules. Let's go in process.
Okay. My friend's making a Flintlock Fantasy splat for D&D 5th Ed. So yes, we're definitely going to sit down and go through these rules.
Using an action, bonus action of movement, tear the paper shot which contains the correct amount of powder and pour it down the barrel. Yes. Using an action, bonus action of movement, place a patch or paper and the ball on the muzzle and push the ball into the barrel. If this weapon takes buck, pour the buck. Use an action, bonus action of movement, take out and prep the ramrod and ram the ball down the barrel. Using an action, bonus action of movement, ensure the ball is completely seated on the powder charge and clear the vent hole with a pick if necessary. Reload the flintlock, pouring powder into a pan and closing the frizzen, or add a percussion cap. Reloading the flat pan requires action of movement with another action to cock the flint. Placing the percussion cap requires an action, bonus action, or movement. So yes, that is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 steps. Now that means that if you're really good and you commit your entire turn, you can reload a muzzle loading weapon in 3 full turns.
I have a question. If you have haste, how many actions would it take?
Well, the thing is, if you have additional actions, you can use those to complete this move. And we say that earlier. If you have situations where you can take additional actions, and once again, in some classes, you can reduce the speed. You can add in additional rules. We will add additional rules so you can load weapons faster. We get to mag clip, for example. We say that you could replacing a magazine is an action, and people will go, "My God, I have to use a whole action. I'm out of commission for a full action to reload a weapon." True. If you have a mag clip connector, it becomes faster. If you have ammo stowed, that's also quicker as well. We actually say the fact that when we're talking about loading a weapon with an action, that's assuming you have clips in reach. If you have your ammunition in your backpack, that's going to take a lot longer than one action. So the standard rule is for 90% of firearms, it's going to take at least you're out of commission for a full turn. And we wanted to stress that in the original 4th edition Amethyst, that was the rule. I didn't use it for game balance, even though some of my collaborators at the time were telling me to use it as a mechanical balancing feature. I didn't want to do that. I just wanted to say, look, no, it's just how it is. You're out of commission full round to reload a weapon. And then if you were really good at your character, you could, like with the grounder and the heavy, and especially the gunslinger, you could add rules to make it faster. So yes, if you have the right weapon, if you have the right skill, you can absolutely reload a weapon. And there will be abilities that allow you to reload weapons even during an attack action. You'll be that quickly. And that will be reflective of what you see in some of these professional videos of people who are reloading and firing a gun in a span of just a second.
Speaking of reloading, what did you think of the way Idris Elba reloaded his revolver in Dark Tower?
It was cool. I said, I mean, the funny thing is that the magical gunslingers that we have in October's Arcane Almanac can do all that.
Ooh, hell yeah!
Yeah, so we had a lot. Like we had curving, like we had the whole curving bullet. Like we really messed around with magical guns in that book. So there's curving bullets.
Speaking of gunslingers, I'm currently playing one in a Curse of Strahd game, and I gotta say it's really fun.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Is that an Ultramodern gunslinger or is that somebody else's?
No, it's someone else's, but I may or may not have based him off of Cooper from Fallout. And he speaks with a German accent. Oh, it's really great.
Yes. Yeah, like I said, I got you can see it, the October Arcane Almanac.
Ooh, okay, that's a thick book. It's a lot thicker than I was expecting.
Oh,
when you said Almanac, I was expecting like a magazine.
No, this is the I would say third biggest book that we've published.
Oh, it's big.
It is at 356 pages, so I think is not as big as Amethyst Revelations and not as big as Factions. So it's not even the third biggest; it's probably fifth biggest. And in not the Eldritch system, which is the one stolen that's ripped off of the trigger system. So the trigger system is the one that has enchanted weapons. That's one of the new systems. Ooh. And that one basically allows anything that's any magical gunslinger is basically covered by the trigger system. So that's cool. That book. The biggest book we've ever published is the Bestiary.
Yes, Vad's been working on making the Bestiary module.
Yeah.
And
this Armoury, there's a slight possibility that the Armoury may have to be cut in half. I may put. Well, no, it just comes down to if this once we have our artwork and we start doing layout, if it gets over 400 pages, I may have to split the vehicles and call it the Ultramodern Armoury and the Ultramodern Garage.
That's brilliant, actually.
So we'll see what happens. Because the vehicle section I didn't think was going to be pretty big, and then I decided to add trains and aircraft and military vehicles and so forth, and it ended up getting quite large. So so that's the Mac Plus property. We've talked about what's involved, and and we go into details on ammunition. This is just some more like a lore that people see the type of ammunition we have. We've got buckshot, shell ammunition, standard bullets, super heavy bullets, cannonballs, microjets, rockets and missiles, needler ammunition, caseless ammunition, which is expanded because I put in all the guns from Aliens.
Nice.
So the rule was, people are going to ask this rule. The rule is, if the weapon, I believe the weapon has a copyright on it, then I generally will rename the weapon.
That's fair.
If, however, the weapon is a very generic name, then I will generally just use the name. For example, RoboCop's weapon is called an Auto 9, so it's called an Auto 9. But I don't call it the Lawgiver because of copyright.
Makes sense, yeah.
So same thing. So with for example, a pulse rifle is not something that's technically copyrightable. So, but I changed the M to a Q. So if you see a Q56 Smart Rifle, then you know it's actually the Alien rifle in there. So
makes sense.
At the last minute, I added in all the vehicles from Avatar, so all the aircraft from Avatar are in there.
Yes. Okay. Speaking of Avatar, I'm gonna see the newest one in theaters. Probably not on opening weekend, but definitely the week after. I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah. So we're gonna talk about properties. Quick. Hopefully, we're not gonna get too long here. And
I got time.
AP and AP Plus property. And we'll see here, the AP property hasn't really changed. The only thing that's really changed is the Pacific rule about damage resistance. It counts as magical, and it basically, you increase the damage quotient by 1 for the purposes of damage penetration. And then AP Plus makes it even more powerful. This section here, the AP Plus, you can think that this is a new section, but the AP Plus property is simply copy-pasted from the electromagnetic railgun property. So we do have rules for, basically the AP Plus can pass through one level of cover without a reduction of damage. If you reduce the target to 0 hit points, it passes through the target and continues in a straight line. Now, railguns have had this since day one, so we're basically giving any weapon that's got an AP Plus property the same capability.
Speaking of AP weapons, are Ralphus rounds a thing in this book?
About what?
Ralphus rounds. Basically, it's a 50 caliber bullet with an explosive charge that, when it hits concrete or other hard surfaces, it creates like a shotgun blast behind it.
I do have explosive tips. Now, whether or not we do something that specifically, I guess send me a note of where I can find the information on it, and maybe I'll throw it as an. We have quite a bit of alternative ammunition.
I'm going to send you the wiki page for it because I'm that much of a nerd. 1 second.
Yeah. I need to pick up the POD of the Bestiary, says Square Peg. Yes, it is insanely big. It is. I wasn't expecting it to be this big. Also, I love the cover. I think Nick did a. This is actually one of Nick's older images, and I loved it. So it was really good. Anyway, Auto and Auto Heavy haven't changed. However, We do have a new rule for 3-shot burst fire. There are some weapons that have a 3-round burst instead of 5-round bursts. So the only difference between those weapons is that they still get escalating damage from auto fire, but they can't do burst fire. They can't do area effects. Only 5 and higher bursts can do burst fire attacks. Burst fire is actually out of out of the DMG, so that doesn't change. So that's the burst fire rule hasn't changed. It's still there. And then so we have auto burst fire, and there's also new rules because there used to be 1 rotary gun, and now there's like 8.
Nice.
Because there's different scales. So like I have the rotary gun from the A10 Warthog, the GAU 8, and then there's a bunch of other GAUs as well.
Nice.
And the other unfortunate thing is that once I got to vehicles, there was like 6 more. So there's like 12 different types of rotary rifles, and their standard rule is the fact they cannot single shot fire, and their area effect is generally much higher. So a burst fire by default is a 10-foot cube, and I think they get up to 20 and 30-foot cubes depending on the Gatling gun that you're using.
You're making the American over here very happy when you mention rotary guns. I am a huge sucker for those.
Apparently, a lot of people are. It's interesting. Whenever I'd watch a video and I'd see a weird gun, I'm like, well, I got to put that in the game. And we'll see some of that in future videos. So we talked about bullpup, and so bullpup technically is it's almost like a hybrid rule-wise between a one-handed and a two-handed weapon. So, for example, a bullpup weapon, you do not have disadvantage on attack rolls if you're within 5 feet of a hostile creature who can see you and who is incapacitated. That's a standard rule for a one-handed weapon. So the bullpup gets that. And their penalty for movement is reduced by 1. So they're kind of like this hybrid between a one-handed and two-handed weapon.
Okay.
So that's a bullpup.
Speaking of bullpups, are you going to put the FN2000 into your game?
FN2000? Let's see here.
It's kind of infamous for its reliability issues. That's why I bring it up.
Let's see here. Walter Evo 2000. Let's see here. I do not see an FN2000. There's a Walter.
I'll send you the wiki page. 1 second.
Well, if it's an unreliable, crappy weapon, I may not put in.
No, there's a specific gun tuber who hates it with a No, it's the developer of Hot Dogs, Horseshoes, and Hand Grenades who hates this gun with a passion. I just think it would be really funny if you put it in there and send it to him. I just want to hear his epic rant about it. It's gonna be great.
Yeah. I do have a couple. I do have some intentionally crappy weapons in this game. I do have quite a few weapons in this game which are really, really bad, and we'll go into details. Like I said, we'll do a quick preview of that before we end off. But double property, draw property. Double property has a higher damage value if you fire with both barrels. Draw property, you have to cock the hammer. A lot of old guns, you have to cock the hammer, and that takes a bonus action. Or you could use an attack if you have multiple attacks in an action to cock your hammer. If you have a free hand, though, you don't have to. So you only get this penalty if you're trying to do basically the Doc Holliday thing from Tombstone, which I just saw again like 2 days ago. When Val Kilmer, you can see him pulling the hammers every single time he fires, and he's firing with 2 weapons. And if you're awesome like Val Kilmer, you can do that. But then we have the electronically stacked projectiles, which you mentioned how much you love. Yes. Magnetic has just been called EM for electromagnetic, just because the properties for some of these guns got really big.
Oh yeah. There's a difference between coil guns, rail guns, and hexacal. After all,
but at the end of the day, we're not going to bother with that.
I know, that's fair.
We have the EXP explosive property. That's just for missiles and damage. People know that. We have the rules for flintlock, which tells you have to spend time to reload a flint. Fail to fire. A bunch of guns, even a few modern weapons, have a fail to fire option. Basically, if you roll natural 1, the weapon jams, and you have to take time to reload. We have the heavy. We have rules for grappling hooks, which haven't changed, so I'll skip those. Guided hasn't really changed too much, except the fact that we have rules for... Oh, yeah, we'll get to rockets when we get to rockets. Gyrojets, same rules. They do more damage the further out. Like, shotguns do more damage at close range. Gyrojets do more damage at distant range.
Makes sense, because they're accelerating as they go along.
Lasers inflict force damage. We haven't played with them.
Okay, I got a question about that, actually. Lasers. Why are the lasers doing force damage instead of, say, fire damage?
I wanted to separate the different classifications. So plasmas
Mhm.
do fire, laser does force, nuclear does radiant. So I wanted to make sure
Okay.
if they were unique. If a laser weapon, once again, it was just a judgment call to try to keep them distinctive,
Okay.
right? Because ultimately, then laser and plasmas become very similar. Yeah, I can go into the lore and play around with that, but at the end of the day, I wanted to have some unique justification for having a force weapon, a thunder weapon, a sonic weapon, a
Yeah.
radiant weapon. So I gave radiant to nuclear, I gave force to laser, and I gave fire to plasma.
Yeah, there's also some argument to be made for letting the laser be radiant because laser is technically radiation.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And once again, it's entirely like so. A lot of people say there's not
Subjective.
much difference between the particle accelerator and a laser, and we just said like particle accelerator. We'll just say once again, we're just using D&D terminology. When
Yeah,
you get
yeah.
down to it, it's like it's all going to be like radiant damage, except for plasma. Even plasma can be considered radiant in some fashion, just because of
Be a
the amount
hybrid
of
like radiant fire. But yeah.
exactly. I remember, and I got a lot of heat when I actually had weapons that did two different damage types. I actually got a lot of flack for that. People were just like, "That's
Really?
against." No, yeah, I actually had people call me out and saying like, "You can't do that. Like, there is no precedent in the system that says a weapon can inflict both two different damage types." And I'm like,
What are they smoking when they say that? That's my question. Like, yes, a weapon can do two different types of damage.
so
People
we
can
have
be really silly and pedantic sometimes. I will
yeah,
say as much.
yeah. Modular is a new property a lot of weapons have that allows you to
Mhm.
modify your guns. So, and we've also played around with equipment that deal all of this. So, barrels,
Mhm.
this is stuff like there's like 5 or 6 different barrels you could attach to a lot of guns, pistols, and
Nice.
two-handed
I like
weapons.
that.
Um,
Yeah,
most,
if there's one, you go first, then I'll go into a rant about attachments real quick.
yeah, it's like this is not just silencers. There are ones that reduce the weight of your weapon as well.
Oh yeah.
I don't know technically if it's possible, but there probably is. Like you can modify like a one-handed
Mhm.
weapon so it's so light it gains a light property if you wanted to use it with one-handed. That's one of the things.
Mhm.
Gun stock, for example, allows you to increase the range of a one-handed weapon, and it literally attaches a gun stock on the back of your pistol.
Yeah.
Magazines are different level magazines for higher capacity magazines, scopes and sights, and then the underside. So those are all the modulars. What were you going to say?
Okay. So basically, when I was looking through various like gun related and sci-fi systems for D&D Fifth Ed, there was one thing that always fell flat in my mind. It was the lack of modifications for firearms, and that drove me up the walls. So I had to make a system from scratch to have modifications for firearms. And I found like a good reference picture for like all the possible modifications that could be put on a gun.
Yeah.
And I added those to my campaign. Unfortunately, none of my players used it, which was kind of sad.
Well, this is one of the things you'll see. Like a lot of modern weapons, they're very similar to older weapons. The big difference is just the amount of modular capabilities that they can
Oh,
do.
yeah.
Like the Scar, there's like tons of things you can do.
You
You
can
can
do
swap
anything with a scar. It's a great gun. I
Yeah,
love it.
yeah, you can do a lot of stuff like the barrels, magazines, scopes and sights.
Oh yeah.
We have like four different scopes and sights, undersided weapons, laser scopes, laser sights,
Yeah.
um, light bulbs, bayonets,
Yes.
um, and then so yeah, and then barrels we have fluted barrels and stuff like that to decrease the weight, carbon fiber barrels to decrease the weight.
Yes.
So a lot of that. Nuclear property, we know that we were just talking about that. Percussion caps, once again, we talked about that. You have to put a cap on
Yeah.
it. Pincher weapons are lightning. Plasma is fire.
Hmm.
Rocket weapons. Rocket weapons have been or have their own property because there are two types of weapons: rockets and missiles. Missiles are guided. Rockets are not.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Rockets fire at 500 feet per turn, and that increases to 1,000, and then 2,000 on subsequent turns.
Hmm.
And that normally wouldn't be an issue, except now we have ranges of 2 or 3 miles. So we want people to be aware that if you
Yeah.
fire a missile at a target that's 2,000 feet away, it might have a chance to go, holy shit, maybe I should not be here. And at
Hmm.
that point, if they move out of the position, you can't do a direct fire. You might still get them on a blast radius, but you lose the opportunity for a direct hit. Unless, of course, the
Yeah.
weapon is guided, and the guided weapon can compensate for travel time to the target.
Speaking of distances, one thing that I did in my Star Wars game is I did distance scaling based on the map size.
Yeah.
So like because like when you're dealing with these long distances, you have to you know make sure that the map can actually support these long distances, because if not, then you're using theater of the mind, which works, but like but I really enjoy having maps where you can actually play with long distances.
Yeah.
It's fun.
We have torpedoes because unfortunately there are submarines in this thing.
Yes.
Underwater firing, we have rules for firing weapons underwater.
Ooh,
It's
okay.
not really, it's there to say, okay, you really want to do it, try, but just be aware you're not doing
It
very
could
well.
fail spectacularly.
Yeah, so basically we say that most weapons after 5, 10, 15, 20 feet lose all kinetic energy. So if you have a weapon that
Yeah.
does 2d8 damage and you fire underwater, you have 15 feet of effective damage, and then it loses all
Yes.
damage potential. Um, Cannons get a bit better. Even the most powerful cannon loses all kinetic energy after 90 feet.
Yeah.
And so we also say how if you're making attack underwater, actually underwater, they have their ranges reduced by 95%. You know, so it's just more of this. There's going, hey, I want to fire this weapon underwater. All right, so thankfully he wrote a rule for that, so I don't have to think about it. So optional rules, we have got collateral damage, and that is if you miss and you're in a city, you might hit something
Or someone.
or someone. You, for
Yeah.
example, each yeah. If you miss a target, you have to continue in a line from that target, and it's a 50% chance of hitting. You do make an attack against anybody behind that person with disadvantage, but you may still hit somebody. Pass through, which is a similar rule, which
Yeah.
if you do kill someone, the shot has a chance of going through and then doing damage
Yes.
to a target behind.
Yes.
And then for those people who really want to be pedantic, we have embedded rules, which means
Ooh.
if you hit a target with a bullet on a d20, basically you make another d20 roll. On a 16 or higher, the bullet has lodged itself in the target's body.
Nice.
And then we have rules on how a bullet impairs you, how it affects your
Uh-huh.
ability scores, your speed reduction,
Nice.
and then the surgical procedures in order to remove and how much damage it does by keeping it in there. So if you have,
Yeah, you can't cure wounds with this. You gotta take it out, man.
yeah, I need to stress that this is an optional rule. You
Yes.
are not like people are not encouraged like unless you want to do with like play around with Ultramax and have brutally devastating rules for being hurt. Then you can
Yeah.
throw the embedment rule. Then we have
I have
this.
a question.
Yeah,
Sorry, keep going. Keep
go
going.
ahead.
Okay. So, like, I have a question about Ultramodern 5 in general. How much from Cyberpunk 2020 did you borrow when you made that rule set?
Uh, Not as much. I mean, I was a big fan of Cyberpunk 2020's life path system, which is the reason I ripped it off uh,
Oh yeah.
for for Ultramodern and so forth. I played around with that system a lot. I was a bigger fan of Mecton in the day than Cyberpunk
Oh,
2020. And
Mexican
I know
Zeta. Yeah,
that's
I've heard about that.
Mecton Zeta. I know that's kind of blasphemy from people to say I liked Mecton more than Cyberpunk just because I was just a bigger fan of Mecha when I was young.
Mhm.
I did play quite a bit of Cyberpunk 2020, but not as much as people may think. When I got into
Mhm.
Cyberpunk, my group at the time was playing GURP Cyberpunk, so
Ah.
which I don't care for. I would play Artel Zorian before anything else. But yeah, so and then one time we were playing Fusion. So oddly enough, I was playing a lot of the interlock and interlock related systems, but
Ooh.
not as much as Cyberpunk 2020 specifically.
Yeah.
Extreme range is times 4. I think that's a rule that people should implement if you want to have fun with
Yes.
long range fire, especially if you have stuff like a sniper scope where you can fire at extreme range at just plain disadvantage, which you
Mhm.
can counter. And if you're a sniper class, you can and
Oh
should be
yeah.
able to implement this. Demolitions, I'm going to skip through because that hasn't changed. I don't think demolitions has changed at all.
Makes sense. Yeah.
But we are going to talk about vehicles real quick. Um,
Okay.
Vehicles, I was playing around with rules and I ended up taking out as many rules that I added back in
Mhm.
because of all the things that we were playing with. Um,
Yeah.
the speed rules haven't changed. Your speed rating for a vehicle is a number that you can add to consecutively for up
Mhm.
to 20 or 30 turns, depending on
Okay.
how powerful your vehicle is. And yes, so if people look at a vehicle that's got a speed of 10, they're like, "What? I can run faster than that." Yeah, I know, but give it 5 or 6 rounds, it will accelerate. And then of
Yeah.
course, when we get to stuff like the Tesla Model Plaid, it has 110 movement, and at times 20, it gets there pretty fast. It's
Yeah.
also and we'll also talk about because there's a whole, like, we have new properties. In the old day, I would have the vehicle, and then you have to check the vehicle entry, and then under the vehicle entry would have all the special rules that vehicle had.
Uh-huh.
After very quickly, I realized the book is going to be 7,000 pages if I did that.
Mhm.
So basically, properties explain everything. So for example, in the gun section, most of the gun descriptions are just descriptions of what the gun is. There's very few additional rules. The
Okay.
properties explain everything. And the same thing with vehicles. In fact, I do believe for civilian vehicles, I didn't even put descriptions on because you know what a Honda Civic is.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
so we have our carryover speed, and then we have attacking from vehicles, ability scores. We have rules for communications because I realized at the last second, and I didn't want to add a radio property.
Yeah.
So just a rule saying all commercial military aircraft have radios, military aquatic vehicles have radios, locomotives tech level 1 and higher have radios. Here
Mhm,
are the
mhm.
ranges of radios based on your tech level. If you have a tech level 2 vehicle, then you've got a 230-mile range on your vehicle to vehicle radio, and if you're using HF, you can get it above that. Just a basic system on how that works. Um, tech level
Yeah.
4 or 5, you're messing with tachyons and what have you. But
Mhm.
just a very basic system if somebody asks about radios in vehicles. Um,
Makes sense.
ramming and crashing have all been merged into one rule. So ramming
Okay.
is so before, if you crash, you took a amount of damage, and that's now just a ram damage.
Okay.
So that table's been removed.
I mean,
Uh,
it makes sense. I mean, the difference between a ram and a crash is like whether or not it's deliberate. So
yeah, exactly. Uh,
yeah.
and so we've basically we're calling all vehicle checks operators checks. So no matter what vehicle you have, like before, 90% of them were ground vehicles, and now we have so many aircraft in there. We have rule. The only thing that's new rules is just basically saying how quick a turn you could make based on how fast you're going. So that's a new rule. That was probably the only new complexity we've
Hmm.
added in. Ram damage, I just mentioned. What else is new? Oh yeah, terrain. So it's we couldn't just have normal and difficult terrain. That
Hmm.
works for people. It doesn't work for vehicles. So we have
Yeah.
paved road, off road, firm, off road, soft, and impassable.
Hmm.
So if you hopefully this table will move up. We're about 5 or 6 seconds below. We can
Sure.
see
Sure.
it. There we go. Um,
All right.
yeah. So paved roads, all vehicle speeds are based off of um, assuming paved roads. Now, paved
Hmm.
roads is this also ground terrain. Paved roads is also straight track, calm winds. So if you have
Hmm.
calm winds, straight tracks, paved roads, you get your top speed that's listed on standard rules. In
Okay.
off road, your speed is dropped by half. Your top speed is dropped by half. But there are ways you can avoid it. For example, an AT vehicle, all-terrain vehicle, can ignore a lot of the speed penalties with off-road firm terrain.
Hmm.
Off-road soft terrain, most vehicles get stuck. Off-road vehicles get difficult terrain, but they can still move. And then there's
Yeah.
impassable terrain, which technically is not impassable. It's just impassable for 90% of the vehicles. But I have vehicles that
Hmm.
are so large that they can destroy them. Like an M1 Abrams, for example, can actually destroy impassable terrain.
Makes sense. But I don't think an Abrams is going to get over a cliff. Not easily.
Yeah, exactly. Uh, and so we have aquatic rules for capsizing. We have terrain sea conditions: calm, choppy, rough, and stormy. And we also, because I just wanted to be an idiot, I wrote in a whole section of rules for sinking ships. So
Yeah.
if your ship is sinking, there are like 4 levels of sink level. There's like level 4 as your
Hmm.
ship is underwater. But how fast you sink depends on how much damage you've taken and how big your vehicle is. So if you have a small vessel and you're at negative 25% your hit points, you're sinking in a round because you're very small.
Hmm.
But if you're a colossal vehicle and you're only at 0 hit points, it's going to take an hour per level. So your vessel is going to take 4 hours to sink.
Makes sense.
Yeah, basically try to make that simple, and you can actually do more damage in order to increase that issue. And you can then have rules for repairing. your vessel if it's sinking. Now we get to vehicle properties, which is the last section of this chapter and this video. I
Yeah.
mentioned the all-terrain property. You ignore your maximum speed penalties for off-road firm and off-road soft terrain, and you automatically succeed on checks of getting stuck. All-wheel drive, which is not all-terrain. Someone asked, curious when this will be available. I don't know. I was hoping to get it out for Christmas. At this rate, it won't. It'll probably be out in January or February. The issue primarily has been how big this book has gotten, but also primarily because I don't have any of my art assets. I'm waiting for a bunch of art assets to come in.
Oh, I feel you. There's a reason why updates for Ultramodern 5 are slow. Part of it's because I'm taking my sweet time finding art assets, and another part of it is like I'm doing other things IRL.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I got Christmas. Amphibious, we have properties for armored, which is obviously once again the your armor resistance we talked about earlier, massive, heavy, medium, and light. Beam. So yes, there's a property called beam that tells you how your headlights work. Okay. I was literally done the chapter and I thought I should probably do a property for headlights. So yes. POD on drive-through. Yes, there will be eventually a POD on drive-through, just like everything else we do. We'll see. Hopefully, basically, what the rule is, like my standard policy, release the PDF, and then I do the print on demand, and that usually takes a couple weeks. And if there's any huge glaring issues, we can fix it in that time. And then when the print on demand comes in, if it looks good, then I activate it, and anyone who bought a PDF can then order the POD at cost. So you're not screwed if you buy the PDF. And then want to get the POD later. You don't have to buy the PDF twice.
That's good.
Yeah, so charge it allows you to recharge your vehicle. There's some futuristic vehicles that got to be recharged. Some vehicles are clumsy, which means you have disadvantage on stunt checks because we have vehicles that are that stupid.
Yeah, like the Honda Civic. Just kidding.
No. I'm not going to lie. There are some bias. Like, for example, people are going to go, oh, why did you put the Cybertruck in? And if you read the stats in the Cybertruck, you'll see exactly why I put the Cybertruck in. For example, the towing capacity of the Cybertruck is what the actual towing capacity of the Cybertruck is, not what they claim it does. So somebody's going to have a Cybertruck, ooh, a Cybertruck, and they're going to look at the stats and go, these are horrible. Yes, it is.
Oh gosh! Every time I see a Cybertruck, I just cringe on the inside. They're so derpy.
Yes. POD limited edition. That's the one thing about the offset that I wish I could do, because obviously I have the leather version of Ultramodern and I have the leather versions of Amethyst, and that's the one thing I can't offer. But until I feel confident that there's something really awesome, like policy wise, that allow me to print in China and offset print, or if people are okay spending an insane price on an American print job, I just can't see it happening. I'd like to, but at the end of the day, print on demand is really, really good. And not a lot of people bought limited editions, like usually like 60, 70 people per Kickstarter. So it's hardly justification to go through all that financial risk for an offset print. Counter is guided weapons. If you get guided, you can, that's basically your chaff and your flare. Exposed, a lot of vehicles get exposed so you don't get sealed. Float, which is obviously, actually, a float is not a boat. A float is a hovercraft.
Okay.
And hovering vehicles. Fusion, you basically have a fusion vision. HMD helmet mount display. You'll see that on stuff like the Cobra and Apache gunships.
Nice.
Hyper, you're much faster. You actually have a times 30 on a ground speed. So a lot of supercars like the Ferraris and Porsches have a hyper property, so they have a much higher top speed. LiDAR, I think we know what LiDAR is, guided weapons. Low light vision, mounts for weapon mounts. Momentum, which means you're so big, you basically are counted as one class higher for ramming damage. I mean, I think that's the biggest one, but that's not even the biggest one. The biggest one is raise. Raise is you're so big, you destroy terrain. And difficult terrain you drive over is no longer difficult terrain.
Yeah, it's all flat now. I mean, look at Mortal Engines. And those
because we have vehicles that are not as big as Mortal Engines, but we have big vehicles that are almost as
big. The books are so much better than the movie, and I think Hayao Miyazaki missed out on making a great movie for Mortal Engines because
I didn't mind the movie. I thought the movie was entertaining. It's just,
it could have been so much better. They should have kept it closer to the book, and they should have had Hayao Miyazaki direct it. Because because Castle in the Sky, Howl's Moving Castle, that animation style, it would have worked so well. And I'm just thinking, like, how great it would have been if he directed that.
Yeah, I think that his sensibility of texture and storytelling, especially when you see some of the other things he's done, absolutely. Nimble is obviously vehicles that are very, very good when they're driving or flying, so they have advantage. Their stunt DCs are reduced by 5. That's what it is. Radar, rugged, which is a vehicle that can stand a lot more punishment. Safe, which are the Volvos of the world. If you're in a crash, and you have seatbelt on, you take half damage. In a safe vehicle, is reduced to a quarter. If your damage is reduced to 10 or less, you take no damage. And with safe, if your damage is reduced to 20 or less, you take no damage. Sealed are vehicles that are completely sealed to the outside environment. We have sealed, and now we have unsealed. Most cars and most vehicles are unsealed. Only vehicles that have their own enclosed oxygen supplies or have some type of medically grade filtration system will have sealed. Yeah. We've added the self-driving, and we have 3 levels of self-driving. Basically, tech level 2, 3, and 4. Tech level 4 is completely AI. Tech level 3 is kind of what we have for modern self-driving. Like tech level 4,
we're gonna let the robots drive our cars. This can only end well.
Exactly. We have that for aircraft. We were talking about smoke we have before, and once again, depending on your smoke keyword, you can have different levels of smoke. We have a snorkel property.
Yeah.
For vehicles that want to drive underwater. Stable for bike. Silent. Some vehicles are quieter than others. This one's going to be controversial. Style.
Ha! Yeah.
So, question. We aren't talking about walking mecha vehicles, right? You are correct. That is an armor. So, vehicles generally will have a quick method of propulsion. So, wheels, jets, hovering craft, anti-gravity, so forth. If they're able to achieve high velocity as a vehicle. If you're always if you have legs, you're an armor. So that's going to be in the armor chapter. So it is kind of weird that in the original Ultramodern, we had power armor and then we had walking tanks in the vehicle section. That doesn't apply anymore. Anything with legs is in the armor section, including if your armor is got 3 or 4 people piloting it.
Speaking of the mecha, gosh, making that for Foundry wasn't fun.
No, I don't do things for you.
I know.
So the answer to your question overboard, yes.
One thing I definitely need out of you though, like concerning vehicles, is a sheet for the starships and Threshold. Did you make one, or
no?
It's fine. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
It's like right now, I want to get this book, and then I want to get the Sparkplug going because Sparkplug has a bunch of stuff, and I want to launch that Kickstarter in February.
Makes sense. Yeah, I might as well whip up something in CSS and hope for the best, or just pull something out of my posterior.
Yeah. So answer your question. Yeah. So walking vehicles. If you have legs, you're an armor. And yes, we do have rules if multiple people have an armor. Basically, you all share the same armor class, and whoever has initiative gets to control it, so it can be a little controversial. But one person is the commander, so they can override what other players do if they don't agree with them. And any weapons one person uses, the other people can't use. So if you
makes sense,
make sure you have multiple weapon systems. So going back to properties, we have style. This is going to be the controversial one. This is the vehicle that's so pretty and so iconic, it will get people's attention. So you have advantage on charisma checks made to impress others while in or near this vehicle.
Please tell me people have disadvantage on style checks if you're driving a Cybertruck.
I didn't know if I wanted to go that far. Like if I put the AMC Gremlin, do I give it a ugly? Because it's one thing to say you have a echelon of prestige if you're in this car. There's something else by saying people will look down on you. I mean, I was thinking of having an ugly, but that's just gonna really annoy people more so than for example, this is an example that's going to be the most pissy. The Subaru WRX STI does not have the style property, but the Lancer Evolution X does.
I think style's in the eye of the beholder, if I'm honest. Like,
Yeah, but
yeah,
since I'm the writer of the game
you
and
get
I
to
own a
choose.
Lancer Evolution X,
Yes,
my car gets the style property and the
yes,
SDI does not. And a lot,
yes.
and someone's gonna go, wait a second, my car should have a style property. Like, nope, the Skyline gets it, the Evo gets it, the SDI does not. And if you ever,
I love
if you're
that.
ever curious to why, watch Top Gear. Anyway,
Oh, Top Gear is so good. Too bad
thermal.
Jeremy Clarkson didn't know how to keep his hands to himself. I'll be
Yeah,
honest.
very
He
true,
shouldn't
very
have punched
true.
the producer.
No, we're in agreement on that. Okay, so we have the tow property, and we've which is towing. We have tracked, which tanks,
Yeah.
and we have trash control, which is not a self-driving. That's trash control. That one's a bit interesting. You automatically make all DC-15 and less driver's checks, but you fail automatically any checks above that. Unsealed, we talked about. Aquatic vehicles, we have beachable, hydro, sail, shallow, sonar, stable, submersible. Those should be pretty
Yeah.
straightforward. With trains, these are just copied over from Taurus, but I did add a few additional rules regarding adding additional trains, a consist it's called, adding rules for dynamic braking,
Okay.
aircraft. There are no planes in this. I didn't want to mess around with planes. So
I don't blame you.
the only aircraft in this book are aircraft that can possess a speed of 0.
Hey, maybe you should talk to the person behind Flying Circus and see if you can collaborate with her and
Well,
make a plane supplement for Ultramodern. That'd be cool.
Flying Circus? You're like Monty Python?
No, the game system, Flying Circus.
So we have our ceiling rules, which tells you how high a vehicle can be, crashes and falling. But we also have new rules for like how much damage you inflict depending on how you land. I actually had to check it up. So a vehicle lands faster than 60 feet per round, but less than 120 feet, suffers damage per standard RAM rules, but is not immediately destroyed. That's an accurate number. I actually looked that up. A hard landing is 60 feet to 120 feet descent. It's a hard landing, but it's not considered a cataclysmic crash. We have safe landing is descent to 60 feet per round or less. Maximum speed for aircraft is times 30 times 20. We do have tilt rotors in the game, so tilt rotors have a certain ability so it can go fast. We have airships, auto rotate, so if you have a helicopter that's crashing, you can descend safely. Glide, the vehicle has an arrow form, so it can glide in case it loses power. Hover, same rules as standard hover. Very few vehicles have hover because the actual defined rules of hover are a vehicle that has that or a creature that can stay aloft without even being consciously aware. Like a beholder has a hover, but a dragon does not. Actually, I can't really be sure, but I know that in the 5e, that's defined the rule that a hover creature does not need to have wings to stay aloft. So in this situation, very few vehicles have the hover property, like anti-gravity blimps have hover. We have an ejection property, of course. Flight is a vehicle that does have direct flight power, like a tilt rotor, and their top speed is times 50 instead of times 30. A vertical rule indicates that a vehicle can simply ascend faster than most others. Most aircraft actually have the VTOL property, which is like hover, except that you have to be consciously in there, and also that if you're in a vertical space for more than a minute, you have to do Constitution saving throws, or is it an operator's check, and you start gaining? Yeah, you have to succeed on DC-10 Constitution saving throw or gain 1 level of exhaustion due to intense concentration and control inputs.
Are you talking about G-forces here?
No, it's pilot strains. Like some vehicles, like it's basically a lot of helicopters and a lot, especially like tilt rotors, for example. It's actually quite difficult to keep it positioned over a spot. In the same spot for more than a minute. So that's what that rule covers. And that's it. That's this is chapter 1. This is chapter 1. We're at 69 pages and we haven't even shown the stats yet.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, we've been doing this for about like what, an hour 30 minutes now?
Yeah, I'm going to go really quickly and we'll do this in more detail later, but I'll go into some of the guns here. Let's get to one of the tables. Which table do you want to see?
Oh god, where do I begin? You know what? Show me the pistols. Let's start there. Let's start with pistols.
Okay, so let's go
Show me,
into. Oh,
show
that's
me, show me the gats. Let's go.
okay. So that's going to be at the beginning of the chapter. Do-do-do, do-do-do, do-do-do. Firearms.
All right.
And we talked about point blank, cartridge shell, crafting weapons, or classifying weapons, and we see here the classification. There's a rule for maintenance as well, in case you wanted to play with that. So here are the tech level 0
Okay.
weapons.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the stream to update.
Yep.
Yeah.
It gives you.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, I give some examples here. 10
Mhm.
gauge brake pistol, 12 gauge brake pistol. So we look at the entries here. Breech 1 shell, 10 gauge double.
Mhm.
Well, actually, a 10 gauge breech should be 2 shells. So there's a mistake right there. Because the 10 gauge
Mhm.
brake pistol should be 2 shells. See? I haven't actually gotten, like, my editing hasn't gotten to this point yet. I just finished chapter 1. That's why we're not going over this chapter right at the moment. But we will here for the Colt Root revolver.
Oh
By the
yeah.
way, cost-wise, it should be noted that the
Mhm.
costs are still using the gold standard.
Oh, that's fine.
So if someone says I can buy a Colt pistol today, costs like thousands of dollars, I go, yes, it is. Everything is all relative. You will have to adjust these costs based on your tech level, your time period, or what have you.
Mhm.
So you may say
Oh
and
yeah.
go, yeah, a Colt revolver in the 1900s cost $25 or whatever. I'm not unsure it is, and then
Yeah.
just alter it accordingly.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Inflation calculator go burr.
yeah. Um, so yeah, there's lots of real world weaponry here. So Colt Patterson number 5, cap and ball, 5 shots, draw, percussion. So once again, it tells us that it's got a percussion. So you have percussion caps you have to put on. So it's not a flintlock. It's a draw weapon, so you have to draw back the hammer to fire it. And it's cap and ball, so we know how it loads, and it takes 5 shots. Does 1d6 piercing, but here's where the other thing, there's a little asterisk next to it. That asterisk tells us that you can technically either load higher caliber weapons, firearms, sorry, or ammunition, or modify it to take higher caliber ammunition, which
Mhm.
means you could take the Colt Patterson to a 1d8 piercing if you so desire.
Okay.
To do that, however, you're generally going to gain the FTF property, which means if you roll a 1, the weapon jams.
Yeah.
Quite a few weapons have this. You can actually you'll notice a couple weapons on this table have a star next to piercing. Ethan Allen pepper box, so muzzle 9 shots, so muzzle
Mhm.
loading and a 9 shot. Why? Because it's a 9-barreled weapon. You can't fire them all at once, but you have to muzzle load all 9 shots. So if it took you
Yeah.
3 full turns in order to load a 1 muzzle, do that
Mhm.
9 times.
Seeing how much effort you put into this, I'm definitely going to see about getting this down the line when I got some spare cash because this looks really cool. I love it, and I want to put this into a Foundry module so bad now. Oh,
Yeah.
this is going to take like forever to do,
Oh,
but it's going to be worth
this
it.
is, and thing is, this table you're looking at, this is all just tech level 0.
I know, like you went like all out in designing weapons. This is awesome.
Yeah, and we
I,
got the
I
actual.
I don't know of any other book that's doing something like this. Like
Yeah,
you're probably like the only
I'm
guy
going to
doing this right now.
zoom out a bit so people can see here. This is now this is tech level 1 pistols, and you'll see a lot more stuff. Now, once again, we're not doing tech level 2. This is tech level 1. This is World War I to the end of World War II, Cold War.
Oh yeah.
So we can see something like the Beretta 93R, and we can see how 1d6 damage piercing. Once again, same damage as a tech level
Mhm.
0 weapon. The range is slightly better. It's 3 pounds, so it's not light.
Oh yeah.
This is the 2024 property. You could ignore that if you don't play the 2024 rules. But the
Yeah.
Beretta is an automatic weapon, so you can fire
Yeah.
5 rounds and increase the damage to 1d8. It's a mag plus, so you can reload the weapon with a bonus action, and there's 20 rounds in the magazine. Modification,
Mhm.
so you can put an under barrel mount, and you can add in a
Mhm.
gun stock. And there's a special rule, which means there's something additional on top of that you have to look at the entry. So that's
Mhm.
probably one of the better weapons. So here, Colt Python 357 Magnum, Breach 6 rounds, Mastercraft, so we get the +1 to hit, 6
Nice.
rounds on a Breach. Let's see if there's anything here that's really interesting.
Oh, the Heckler and Koch P7.
I knew you'd look at that. There's also the Heckler
Yes.
and Koch VP70, which is also here. What else is? Oh, Makarov. The Makarov PB suppressed. That one is the one weapon in the game that is
Ah,
it's so quiet. It's the shot firing is quieter than the trigger pull,
yeah.
which is
But
crazy. I had no
speaking
idea
of
that they made
weapons,
weapons that are that quick. Yeah, yeah.
speaking of weapons, real quick, did you include the P90 and also the Chris Vector in this splat?
I'm almost positive the P90s, and I don't know about the other one.
Yes.
Like right here.
Definitely add the Chris Vector. Please add the Chris Vector. That submachine gun's so cool. I
Well,
love it.
I'll have to do a search on there. So yeah,
I'll
TP82.
send it to you.
We actually have. There's some weird weapons here. For example, there's quite a few revolvers, but where is it? Um, there is a revolver shotgun in the pistol area here somewhere. I got to check because I this is one of the two sections where I had to create in descriptions. If you get into tech level 2, there's a lot of there's the FN57, Glock
Mhm.
19, CSG Maglite. So if you have a
Ooh.
flashlight with a gun in it, the cell phone gun, which has gotten very controversial, is in here. A two-shot cell phone gun. Um, Caltech P50. There's the Metastorm VLE. Now the actual name brand is in here. What else? 6 hour Smith & Wesson 500. Obviously, that's a 1 die 12 damage. Breach 5 rounds. Oh, there it is. The Taurus Defender. So it's a 1 die 8 piercing breach 3 shells shotgun. And then
Mhm.
there's a Taurus Judge, which is a 5 shell revolver shotgun, and it's a pistol.
Oh yeah.
It shells. It's 12 gauge, so it doesn't do a lot of damage, but it's
Hey,
still a shotgun.
one of the people watching our stream asked a question. Um, at what point do many different types of weapons become redundant when doing damage, etc.?
Well, very quickly, the important thing, because when we look at this table here, and we can see there's only 3 or 4 different damage types: 1 die 4, 1 die 6, and 1 die 8. There's a few weapons that do 1 die 12, but most of the weapons do 1 die 6. The most important thing when I was talking with How to D&D on his channel about this, he couldn't understand why there are 800 different weapons. Like, there's not enough variety, and the variety doesn't come just with 1 die 6 or 1 die 8. It's got to be more than that. Obviously,
Yeah.
part of that's going to be range. Part of
Mhm.
that's going to be the weight of the weapon. Can you wield it two-handed? But a lot of it comes down to where you're picking your time period. Like, people have to
Mhm.
understand the fact that the moment you say we're going with an Old West, well, at that point, 90% of the guns aren't even going to even be available for your setting. You're only going to be
Yeah.
using the tech level 0 pistols. So suddenly that 150, 200 pistols gets whittled down to 35 or 40. So you have
Mhm.
a lot, so the variety drops. And the same thing is if you have a modern weapon. For example, if you're doing a
Mhm.
John Wick story, then 9 times out of 10, he's going to be using tech level 2 or tech level 3 weapons. He's not going to be using, unless it's that one scene where he loads one gun into an old fashioned firearm and then shoots it in that one scene. And, like, I think it's the
Oh yeah.
second movie um, or third movie. I can't remember when it happens. And so that's kind of the important thing. The other thing, of course, is that once again, we look at the additional rules, and the other thing I've noticed with people is how often they want the weird weapons. So
Oh
for
yeah.
me, I was adding a lot of weird weapons because, like, once again, someone's going to say, "Oh, I want a Lamont revolver." I go, "There were better weapons around that time period, but they wanted to have a Lamont revolver." So yes,
Speaking of
here, go ahead.
Thank you. Speaking of weird weapons, what was the weirdest one that someone asked for?
Um, there is a striker fired caseless rifle that it is straight out of steampunk. It is
Uh-huh.
straight out of steampunk. It's a real weapon that Liam did on Forgotten Weapons, and I had a guy in my game goes, "I want that gun." He's just like, you realize how annoying that weapon is. He's like, "I don't care." It's a lot
He
of people
wants
want
it.
to have that variety. So going back to that previous question, at what point do these become redundant? Like I said, you have to pick your tech level. Like
Mhm.
Sparkplug Chronicles is a good example. Sparkplug Chronicles is a retro set in the 80s, so all the guns are tech level 1. So you're
Yeah.
using World War II and old Cold War firearms. You're not going to see no tech level 3 weapon.
Mhm.
Basically, so you'll see guys walking around in super high tech bioorganic gear, but
Yeah.
because the bioorganic technology does not create guns, all the guns are from World War II.
Yeah.
So there's that, and then the second one is obviously we have a different range between one-handed, two-handed weapons, and then
Mhm.
all the unique things. For example, we look at like the Ruger Charger, you know, and yeah, it does the same damage as a lot of other guns. The Sig Sauer does the
Mhm.
same thing, but
Yeah.
there's different magazine capacities, different modifications. The Sig Sauer is light, where the Ruger is not.
Yeah.
But the Ruger has a sniper +1 because it comes with a sniper scope.
Yeah.
So I tried. If there were weapons that were so exactly the same, I would generally okay. Which one's the more popular? Because I had a lot of people asking for all the AK-47 variants, and I'm like, well, first of all, you can modify an AK-47 like 14 times using rules, but I'm
Yeah.
not going to throw in all those distinct variants. If there's like a 10-foot range between them, a good example of this is between the M16 and the AR-15. These two
Yeah.
weapons are so close. It's the only
Mhm.
real distinction between them is more political and certain mechanical differences that I cannot reflect in rules. So there
Yes.
was no real point in creating a distinction between the M16 and the AR-15, even though and a
Yeah.
lot of people will say there are significant differences between them. There wasn't a way to express them mechanically, so I don't
Yes.
believe that they're both in the game.
That makes
Um,
sense.
yeah, like now, before we go, I will show you the Tech Level 3+ weapons, and you'll see some of the weird weapons. So,
Okay.
the Assembly Assault Anachronism, I can't
Oh,
remember
I remember
that.
that
Auto
one.
9 is RoboCop. The Blood Beam,
Yeah.
where the hell's some of these? Like the Brutalist Object of Power is from Control. Someone was asking for the service revolver, the service weapon from Control, so it's in here and it's called the Brutalist Object of Power. If you played Control, then you will recognize that name. It's not called a Brutalist Object of Power, but if you know Control, you know exactly what that means. Capacitor, charge pistol, demiurge is from that. There's the
Mhm.
Lawmaker, not the Lawgiver, the Lawmaker.
Oh, yeah.
If I say line gun, do you know what I'm talking about?
I think that was the one that fired a beam of plasma.
It's from Dead Space.
Oh, I remember now. Yeah, yeah, that
Yeah,
one.
Particle Magnum is from Stargate Atlantis.
Ah, yes.
Pico
I
Positrons from Men in Black. We have a Smart Pistol, which is from Titanfall,
yes,
and a
the
few others.
particle was
Now,
great.
that's not a lot in there, but we get into. We'll jump past that really quickly, and we'll show two-handed weapons are nuts. Like if you look at two-handed small arms, um, there is an insane level. You can see this table. The table I'm showing people right now that you're just now seeing. This
Mhm.
is just a tech level 0 rifles.
Uh-huh.
Um, so this includes everything from muskets all the way to the basically the end of the 19th century. So, and by the way, blunderbusses are nasty. Blunderbusses do way more damage than they used to. Blunderbusses are crazy because we actually have. Did you watch the recent Frankenstein movie on Netflix?
No, but I'll get around to it. That's on my list.
So I I'm not joking when I say that uh at one point in that beginning of the movie, it's in the first 5 minutes, somebody walks out with a 4-barreled blunderbuss.
Oh, yeah.
So you actually rotate the whole assembly to fire the other round. And I said,
Yeah.
okay, what the hell? And so I looked it up and they found a prototype of this weapon and no one knows it ever existed. So of course, it's in the game.
Nice.
So yeah, there are so many guns in here because I have everything from your traditional musket carbines to Remington rolling block rifles. I have the Marlin volcanic repeater, the
Yeah.
Mississippi rifle. So the Lidner Tusker rifle is the striker fired. It's nuts. When we go into tech level 3, like I said, we'll go into more details. There's the AR-10 and the AR-15. It's up in here. We're going to get into the tech level 3 weapons. Tech level 2. There are so many of these. I was actually thinking I should cut some out, but I decided not to. Let's see. 10 millimeter HV penetrator is from the movie. Is from the video game Fear.
Yeah.
Accelerator rifle. I don't know what that's from. Anti-material electric driver. Chemrail. Chemrail. If I say chemrail, do you know what that's?
Oh, Chemrail. Yes, Elysium.
Yes, good man. The chemrail's here.
Oh
Um,
god, the Chemrail is freaking amazing. I remember watching that scene. I'm just like, yes.
yeah, the Cervena Nastava Nostra. Only a few people will pick up that reference. That's from Ghost in the Shell.
Oh,
Um,
I read the manga, the original manga for Ghost in the Shell, and I gotta say, like it was really good, and it kind of aged decently,
Oh yeah,
even though it was
absolutely.
written in the 90s.
Our alien guns are here, our aliens weapons, or colonial marines, the electronic burst rifle,
Okay.
the electronic pulse rifle, the electronic scout rifle, and the electronic smart rifle. So
Okay.
they're all here.
Speaking of
Um,
caseless rifles, did you make a stat block for the G11?
oh, J11, totally.
Hell yeah, yes, yes. Good old Kraut
G,
space magic.
oh yeah, absolutely. So what was that weapon you were asking about earlier?
There was a couple.
You were mentioning
Um,
one that was
the
kind
Chris
of
Vector,
is it's isn't it KRISS?
KRISS, yes,
You
the
mean
Chris Vector.
you mean the TDI Chris Vector that I already have in the game?
Oh, you already had it. Okay, okay. Then if it's already in there, then
Yeah. So it's
hell yeah,
196 piercing with a star, so it can have upgraded ammunition, 100 to 400
hell yeah.
range, auto 1.8 mag plus 30 rounds with a
Nice.
mod BMSU. So basically every aspect of it can be modified. You can change the barrel, you can change the magazine, you can add scopes, you can change the undermounts. So yeah, the TDI Chris Vector is in there. I think I remember what that weapon looks like too.
Oh yeah, the Chris Vector's my favorite SMG because it shoots 45 ACP, has a firing rate of about 1,200 per minute, and also it has a two-shot burst fire where you can actually fire it and the barrel won't rise till the second shot. So it is really cool.
Yeah.
And also the recoil on that thing is almost unnoticeable.
Yeah, and then in a quiet little preview, here's tech level 3 massive weapons, so you can see the damage
Okay.
output of some things here. What do we have here? We have a Gauss gigawatt laser cannon, 2.8 plus
Ooh,
24's graviton flux cannon, long tom magnetic accelerator. That's sniper plus 3, 2.10 plus 20
nice.
damage. Uh, and but the thing is that's the same. But if we go into vehicles, which
Hmm.
this is a section I haven't really played with yet, you'll
Yeah.
see, let's go into out of armor, and we go into stuff like, let's see, tech level 3. Let's take into something that actually exists. Those are Iowa Iowa class battleship. Yes, I know. Thank you. Light cruiser. Let's get to some vehicles here. Let's see here. Pandor, Puma, IVF, T14. Oh yeah, so this is the tech level 2 weapon. So we look at
Hmm.
the M1 Abrams. So there's the M1 Abrams.
Nice.
It's got damage resistance, cold, fire, lightning, thunder. It is immune to
Hmm.
electromagnetic radiation, and its primary weapon is the M256 120mm smoothbore gun that does 4 die 12 plus 48 piercing damage. AP AP plus property, breach 1 tank shell. It is massive, and it has a sniper plus 2 property. Because it's a tank shell, it can
Yeah.
actually carry alternate ammunition. The other thing, we won't talk about it now. I'll just do a quick preview saying the fact
Yeah.
that once we get into chapter 1, we'll talk about actual weapons and you'll see the variety because there's actually a lot more weapons there that we just previewed. For example, I had mentioned the fact that the carbon crossbow got expanded. There's now 17 or 18 crossbows, modern crossbows.
Oh yeah.
But the same thing happens with air rifles. I thought up until a month and a half ago that an air rifle was like an airsoft gun, paintball.
No. And an air rifle can freaking like turn your head into chunky salsa if you get shot there. Especially the high power ones.
So I didn't know that there were such a thing
Oh.
as a as lethal air rifles. That there are
Oh
these
yeah.
like you can put air tanks like air like compressed air canisters into a weapon
Yeah.
and and then and then fire pellets at lethal night. And the thing, they're still subsonic, so they're quiet.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So as
Speaking
there
of air
was
rifles, remember that myth where they shot an ice bullet out of a gun at Mythbusters? Remember that?
oh yeah.
That wouldn't work with a traditional firearm, but with an air rifle, it's kind of plausible now.
Yeah. So as a result, here, this is the new Tech Level 2 subsonic table,
Hmm?
which is, I don't think anyone is going to see this anywhere else.
Okay.
So this,
Wait. Okay. When you get there, don't scroll past it because that's the only way I'm going to be able to see it from my end.
yeah. So yeah. So you'll see. So here they are. So some of these are actual brands.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, it'll show up in a second on my end. Like I'm kind of watching your stream while we're doing this.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking at the stream now, and they are up. So,
Hell yeah, hell yeah.
for example, there's something here. Where is it? Yeah, there's actually a Gatling crossbow in here. There is
Nice.
oh yeah, the Alarmo. So this is an actual real weapon. The AEA Alarmo does one detail bludgeoning at 5 feet.
Hmm.
It does not have a range. You can only fire it at 5 feet. It doesn't have a projectile. What it fires is a hyper powerful charge of air at I think 6,500 psi. And someone fired this thing at point blank range and basically incinerated a like a watermelon, just blew it apart. Just and they put
Wow.
it in front of a skull and it stripped the skin off of it. And what it has are these canisters. They look like a shotgun shell, except they're about 4 times as long.
Mm-hmm.
And you manually can fill these things up. And you pump them up to like 6,500 psi, might even be higher. And then you load them in like a breech shotgun. And then you can fire it. And so there is like I do actually have rules, and you can actually have so instead of having loading pellets, you literally load in these extra large shotgun shells, so you can fire
Yeah.
this weapon at point blank range,
Mm-hmm.
and it also can deafen you as well. And so yeah, this weapon
Interesting.
will do 2d10 damage. But by this point, someone's going to say, "Why not just get a shotgun?" Because reasons.
Yes.
Someone is going to want to have something like this. Obviously, from a stealth perspective, the vast majority of these weapons
Mm-hmm.
can be justified.
Oh
And
yeah.
there are some other, like I said, if you get into, I'm not going to show the Level 3, those are all magic ones, or just crazy stuff. But we actually do have, like almost every, I think every crossbow and weapon in this section, this table here, every single one here is a real weapon. This is a
That's
real
so cool.
weapon that you can acquire, right? So we do
Yeah.
have like, and we say loading 6 to 14 pellets. So because this pellets and
Mm-hmm.
pellets have, there are explosive pellets you can also acquire.
Yeah.
So
Is it possible to get fin stabilized discarding Sabo pellets for chance?
no, I don't have that.
Oh
But I
shucks.
will say the ammunition section is significantly larger. Like it is
Oh hell
significantly
yeah.
larger because obviously we have modifiers, but we have all the new rules for buckshot and paper
Uh-huh.
rounds, and then all of the flechette, microjets, and then alternative ammunition. We have blanks, which we never had before. Um,
Yeah.
for tank shells, there's chemical, canister,
Mm-hmm.
explosive tip, fragmentation, incendiary, heat, hash, which is something that's new. That's the one where it impacts and then it pushes debris
Yeah.
into the compartment.
Mm-hmm.
High velocity rounds, neurotoxin, phase rounds, because I like Star Trek, and then
Yes.
the different grades of smoke, and then of
Mm-hmm.
course subsonic and tracer rounds. So like I said, we're gonna go into this in more detail in further parts. I just wanted to show people the rules
Mm-hmm.
for what we were going into, so they're seeing what we have. Any final
Yeah.
questions people may have? Um, let's see. We had the redundant rules. I don't use 2024 rules, but I do use the Tale of Valiant 5e rules. Tales of
Mm-hmm.
Valiant does have weapons with special rules. It would be nice if it plays well together. Once again, I haven't read Tale of the Valiant. I haven't read the Black Flag either. Like I said, I use like vocabulary from 2024, but the only thing with weapons is the 2024 mastery rules. So I include the mastery rules, but you can simply ignore it. Like this is a book that's completely compatible. Same thing with with the monster manual. The monster manual is completely compatible with both the old version and the 2024 rules.
Oh yeah.
My players' eyes would glaze seeing this book when adapted to Amethyst and having a wide range. Yes, of course. Um, that is absolutely true. I mean, once again, the thing about Amethyst is that within the confines of the setting, most of these firearms didn't survive. In
Yeah.
Amethyst, all the firearms are weapons that they have made in the modern age to combat
Mm-hmm.
disruption. So Now, that being said, all of the new fancy high-tech weapons, most of those are in amethyst anyway. But for example, if someone says, I wanted to have a cap and ball revolver, an argument can absolutely be made that potentially really ancient weapons could be enchanted. And in amethyst, I had stated that because magic can disrupt with combustion, that even blunderbusses can be unreliable and they can fail. But if someone wants to take the risk and go out with a Lamont revolver into the magical world, I mean, chances are you probably have a better chance than going out with a regular tech level 1 firearm. But in that same context, there I still wouldn't enchant it. Yeah, you. I mean, someone asked about explosive. Yeah, we have the explosive section, but the rule is fact that in amethyst, the sudden expansion of gases is slightly unreliable. So explosives, like even grenades, in the lore, there's about a 5 to 10% chance that grenades don't detonate, and that's why in disruption rules there is a rule that basically states the fact that if there's a disruption event, it can affect chemical propulsion. Now, with grenades and regular rifles, we did not, to make things easier, we said that those things don't disrupt. So a grenade's still going to blow up, a gun's still going to blow up. It happens so rarely that it's not even worthy of a mechanic. However, if you enchant that gun, you infuse magic directly into it, it basically screws it up. So that was the rule to prevent magical guns in amethyst. So you could use a grenade, but you couldn't use a grenade that you've enchanted. It wouldn't blow up. And the disruption of a tech level 0 firearm would go from like 1% to about 25 to 50% if you try to enchant it. And so that's why within the lore, amethyst this does not have magic guns. And that was a rule I made to prevent a specific presentation of the setting.
Okay. Well, speaking of amethyst, how much of it was inspired by the Emberverse by S.M. Sterling?
0.
0?
Yeah.
Okay. I was curious because
I can tell you exactly. Amethyst, I mentioned this like a few times. So Amethyst started off as in the 90s. I love the movie Dragon Slayer. There's going to get how old I am. I really love Dragon Slayer. And I had this thing as a child where I would take anything that was non-sci-fi and go, okay, how would I make this sci-fi? I would watch like modern crime stories and imagine if they were sci-fi, just because I love sci-fi so much. So I thought, how would I make dragons in sci-fi? So I created a setting, which was the Bastion of Angel, and it was the last city. It was one of the last cities of Van. It was walled in. There was no magic. There were no elves. There was no disruption. But dragons had returned to the world. But they were the classic fantasy dragons that could transform, that could talk. They weren't like monster dragons. But they had, and they had risen up after a nuclear war had destroyed the world. And so the Bastion of Angel was walled in. Dragons were roaming the wastelands. And this city was the last vestige of humanity, blah, 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 blah. And there's a few elements in the novel that are directly referencing this original story. Then the movie Reign of Fire came out, and I went, well, fuck, that just killed that idea. And so I stopped developing that. And then many years later, a friend of mine said, hey, I want to do a D&D, I want to run a D&D game. Well, he said, I want you to run a D&D game for me to be a player, because I remember you were a good GM. So I said, fine. So I dusted off Amethyst. So I took Amethyst, the setting I had, took core D&D, this is 3rd edition, and I crammed them together. So I took all the fantasy elements of D&D and I put it into Amethyst. And that was this weird chimera that didn't work for about a year. And then I bumped into a friend of mine. He asked me what setting I was doing, and I told him it was a custom setting. And I said that the difference between my setting and other settings is that magic and technology don't interact, and magic actively disrupts technology. And he said,
I like that. It's basically what would happen if Harry Dresden's world was a lot bigger.
Yeah.
And if all the mythological creatures like started coming out of the woodwork, that's probably what would happen in the Dresden verse.
And my friend said, hey, that's an interesting idea. And I said, yeah, it is, because I hadn't thought of it until that moment. And then I went back to the game session and said, I'm instigating a rule. and I've added disruption in, which nerfed one
Mhm.
player that was shooting guns and casting spells. And I
Oh
said,
yeah.
no, there's disruption, and there's disruption, and that defined Amethyst, and that's why
Mhm.
the original 2008 D20 Amethyst is very anachronistic, is not really canonical.
Mhm.
And with the advent of Amethyst Foundations and later Quintessence, I helped redefine the setting into what we have now. So there wasn't.
Okay.
So if you track back long enough, it goes back to the original Dragon Slayer, and we just had this evolution. But there wasn't like some people have actually said like, is this inspired by this? I went, no, I developed this long before that. I can show how
Okay.
things got to where they are. Uh,
Okay.
and some things are like, oh no, this is totally inspired by this. This is totally inspired by this. And some of my
Mhm.
inspirations, like I have a like Threshold. Good example,
Oh
Threshold.
yeah.
Do you know the original
Threshold.
inspiration of Threshold was the movie Glengarry Glen Ross,
Mm.
which is not science fiction. It's five guys in a room talking about real estate, and that was the initial inspiration to creating
Yeah.
Threshold.
Interesting.
Let's see. Someone said use them as relics. Absolutely, you can have that. One of my absolute favorites, if you ever have a chance, watch Into the Badlands. One of the best
Oh
TV
yes.
shows ever. And that's the idea of weapons being banned and then eventually a couple old relics show up.
Oh yes.
Only issue we ran into was catastrophic weapons failure for the party in the middle of combat. That was always an issue in Amethyst. I always
Oh
said it,
yeah.
it's actually in the book where I say, don't really enforce disruption until they're being lazy and flagrant with it.
Yes.
Meaning that if you're in a situation where, from a role playing perspective, you want to induce disruption, or if players are just, they feel as if they can get away with it, then
Mhm.
enforce disruption. Um, but beyond that, like when I ran Amethyst, I think I ran Amethyst for 11 years. I can count the number of active disruption events on one hand
Yeah.
because
Let's-
if
Yeah.
my players were, they knew the setting, they wanted to
Mhm.
envelop themselves in this setting, so they were in character, consciously aware of the hindrances of magical disruption. So
Okay.
if they took efforts to protect themselves, I didn't punish them with randomization. That's just my issue.
I like that. I like how you rewarded the player's initiative and preparation. That is what you should do. Like if you're running a game and the players come up with a cool plan, if they prepare sufficiently for it, they should have a high chance of success.
Exactly, and that was kind of and that was my inspiration. So if people are saying that there are huge issues,
Yeah.
then that with balance, with catastrophic weapon failure, I would look at like what like I would say if you think that's causing issues, like potentially total player kill, I would say like, well, we'll dial back. I even have rules in the game that says, here's your low risk and your high risk. And in
Oh
the
yeah.
in the novelization, disruption rarely pops up because characters are generally quite careful. It's just a mechanic to define the setting
Mhm.
because I didn't want to create um magical mecha or enchanted boiler rooms, or I didn't want War Machine.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That's for a later series.
the funny thing is that once again, when we got into stuff like Taurus, like
Oh yeah.
Affinity doesn't have disruption, and instead we created a situation where each setting had a different magical ratio, 80-20-20,
Oh
80
yeah.
50-50.
I
So
remember that.
yeah, so that was that.
Also, another thing about those 3 books is I remember how you said they were completely separate settings and they didn't connect with each other, and I was like, "I wanna run a game where they're all connected," because I thought that was cool.
Well, I did when I ran the original campaign. I was trying to divide it, and the players didn't want to. They just wanted to play in Paradise, which is the reason why Paradise has always had the more detailed setting. Then when I
Oh, yeah.
ran the standalone modules with the groups, we did alternate settings. So one
Yeah.
day we did the Conestoga, one day we did Taurus, and one day we did Paradise, and then we would alternate. So
Yes.
it would be 3 weeks between Paradise issues,
Mhm.
sessions. So and that was fun. I'm like I said, right now my group. I don't have a group at the moment. I'm going to be
Aw.
assembling a group for Sparkplug
Ooh,
Chronicles, which is a is it
really?
biopunk post-apocalyptic retro extraction shooter.
Ooh, okay.
Um,
Okay.
so that's going to be very interesting because it's going to be very story based. It's like
Mhm.
it's set in the late 70s, early 80s. All the weapons are from
Mm,
World War II, and
nice.
there's biological monstrosities. And right now, I'm waiting for Nick to send some artwork.
Okay, if you need a willing test subject for this game, I'm available on Tuesdays.
All right, Tuesdays, just Tuesdays.
Well, I play a lot of tabletop games because I don't know how to limit myself. So like I'll make time if I need to, if Tuesdays don't work, but I'm more than happy to be a willing gremlin for your game.
Well, it's got some crazy rules beyond the fact that we have 6 new races.
Ooh,
But
okay,
it's the extraction, the hollow rules, and the prestige rules, which are going to be probably the most
okay,
controversial. The idea, the
all
fact
right,
that you can go out, get killed, and it's just an inconvenience because
okay, that's cool.
you were remote controlling a clone all this time, and
Oh, okay, that's really cool.
and you have to send another clone to retrieve all the gear off of the dead clone you left in the previous outing. It's
I
like,
love that. That's really brilliant. Are you gonna be running this on Foundry or Roll20?
I really don't like online. online. Like I'm not against virtual tabletops, but if I'm going to be running this game, it's going to be 6 people on Skype
Oh, that's fine.
and talking. Like I said, other than showing
Yeah,
images,
yeah.
I'm not personally interested in running like dungeon maps, and that's the
I
reason
see. I
why
see.
I've been a player in VTTs. I have never run a VTT module. And that's
Yeah,
because I'm old and I don't like new
it's
things.
fine.
No,
It's fine. I get it.
that's why I got somebody else to create the VTTs.
Yes, yes. You're making me suffer.
Square Peg, that sounds a lot like Corpse Run from EverQuest. I don't know what that is. Corpse Run from EverQuest. I mean, I've heard of EverQuest. What is Corpse Run from EverQuest?
Oh gosh, I might need to ask my dad about that because he played EverQuest a lot back in the
A
day.
corpse run is the risky, often naked journey your ghost spirit takes back to where your character died to retrieve your dropped gear and experience. So this is not like that. The idea that you've bought a hollow, which
Uh-huh.
is a genetically engineered life form that's kind of like what would happen if you took the brain out of a what are the shape changers called in D&D? Why am I blanking?
Changelings.
Changeling. If you took the brain out of a changeling
Yeah.
and instead put a remote control organ in there, and then you put on a hat, and then
Uh-huh.
when you put on that hat, it transforms into you and all your abilities and all your spats.
Oh,
Then
that's
that
cool.
clone puts on all your gear, puts on your weapons,
Okay,
and
okay.
then goes off to do a mission in order to retrieve stuff
Mhm.
from these black zones, things that are valuable.
Mhm.
And then you have to come back and then trade them for food and shelter. But if you
Okay.
get killed, you got to buy another hollow, put on that
Yes.
helmet, send it out in order to hopefully grab the gear of the things you have. This is once again, this is pretty common in there are quite a few video games. Obviously, this is an extraction shooter formula,
Mhm.
and I'm just translating that to tabletop pen and paper. So it's not an original idea in general. I don't think I've ever seen it done in a tabletop pen and paper
I
RPG.
I did something like this in my Star Wars game. Like my players visited a planet that didn't exactly like aliens. So you know Avatar and how you remote control bodies, right?
Yeah,
I basically had my players make avatars that look like the inhabitants of this planet,
yeah.
and they basically like avoided all combat for like 90% of that section of the game, and they managed to blend in without blowing their cover,
Well,
which is kind of
that's
impressive.
the joke, because at this point, because I'm telling people to not like I'm telling GMs not to hold back. Like in my game,
Oh yeah,
players very seldom die. I'm more about the story than anything else. But
yeah,
I'm actually encouraging kind of, I hate to say it, but kind of like Tom Cruise and Live Die Repeat.
yes,
Edge of
yes.
Tomorrow,
Oh,
where
I freaking love Edge of Tomorrow.
he misses a roll and then dies. You're like, ah, crap! I got to
Yes.
do all that shit again. You
I,
know,
I I like how you're encouraging people to be like extra lethal with this. So like you can like take a look at say challenge rating and like okay, yeah, I can bump it up now because I'm not worried about my players dying because they're remote control bodies, so I can let loose.
yeah.
It's great. I love it.
So
It's
yeah,
this high
there's
risk, high
yeah.
reward
If there's
gameplay.
a video game that closely resembles what I'm going for, look up a game called Forever Winter.
Oh, I love Forever Winter. Yes, yes, yes. Forever Winter is great. I need to re-download it, but like I love it.
Yeah,
Yes.
visually, aesthetically, we're playing with that. So it's kind of like a biopunk Forever Winter. So instead of AI robots, we're dealing with like genetically engineered abominations and so forth. So let's see what
Yes.
else. Do some final comments and we'll close up.
Mhm.
That sounds a lot like Corpse from EarthQuake. So I mentioned how many pages. Like I said, this book is currently 473 pages without refinement. With artwork, it's probably going to be 450. If it's in the 400 page mark, I'll publish it all in one. But if it gets above 450 to 500 pages, I will break it up over two books. I'll put the Armoury in
Yeah.
one, and then the Garage in the other. Um, I'm an in-person DM. That's how I always did it.
Yeah.
I have only ever DM'd or GM'd games in person. People in a room
Mhm.
surrounded, and that's my default. My only issue now is that if I do run this game for which I'm going to for Sparkplug, the only thing that's holding me back is just that the vast majority of my friends are in other cities now.
Oof. Yeah. It's not like I could fly over and play with you, unfortunately. Like,
Yeah. We did a flash
airfare
Yeah, we
sucks.
did a flashback episode where the group played a SWAT team during the fall of in Amethyst. Oh my god, Leather Guru, I love you. That is
That's cool.
I have never okay, this is something that's going to be really like only unfortunately there's three novels of Amethyst and the fourth novel actually expands on this because we never really go into detail specifically. The new book does. If you've read Amethyst Revelations, it goes into a lot of detail on what actually happened in the fall of when the fall of man of Amethyst. And a lot of people thought these two gates opened at the same time. Turns out it didn't. The Black Gate opened many years before the White Gate. In fact, it was probably decades, if not centuries. And so there was a time
Mm.
period where the world was trying to fight off monstrosities from Ixandar using modern weaponry, and they
Okay.
failed constantly, and eventually they had to turn to nuclear weapons to devastate the planet. And then in the end, they still didn't
Ah.
defeat them. And so there was this final stand at a place called Arxis, where the last bits of humanity were trying desperately to fight off against these encroaching forces of darkness while
Yeah.
trying to send ships into space to save humanity. So
Oh.
there's like a whole kind of retro campaign that is only inferred that's never done in Amethyst, where it's modern day with modern firearms, and you're fighting against all the creatures of darkness. Back in the old
Mm.
days, this would have been demons, but now this is like Shemijaza, Pegasus, black, the Ixandar dragons, and then all the creatures, all the humans that get corrupted by darkness, and it turns, and then you have this expanding blackness coming out of Russia, which is where the Black Gate is, and then this expanding area, and then people around the world desperately trying to fight up against it, and they can't, and then they just lose, like just
Mhm.
overwhelming forces. I used Battle.
I'm
Well,
yeah.
I used Battle LA as a setting idea. You'd be surprised how inspiring Battle LA is. Despite
Wait,
not
that was a
being a
great movie.
great movie, it heavily inspired a lot. In fact, what the hell I'm talking
Mhm.
about? Invasion Proxy. The module I put out, Invasion Proxy, is a direct adaptation of Battle LA, except
Mm.
except the creatures. I shifted it from LA to
Baghdad.
Baghdad during the Green Zone era,
Yeah.
and then after that, the creatures it was a nano bomb rather than a direct alien invasion. So it was an accidental
Ah.
invasion. So it was like a nanite swarm that would biologically create cyborgs out of tissue
Mhm.
and metal and so forth, kind of like the creature from Virus, except in a mass scale.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, we'll leave it at that. Any other final questions you may have?
I don't see anything in the chat.
Do you have any questions?
I have a lot of questions, but like, I got a busy day ahead of me. So like, have you ever considered doing a setting in like diesel punk? Because I would love to do a diesel punk style setting.
Well, technically, this is where we get into annoyances because I've gone on rants about the whole punk moniker and how much I disagree with it.
Yeah.
I mean, Taurus is kind of steampunk diesel punk. I
Yeah.
actually prefer diesel punk as an aesthetic. Like my
Yes.
two favorite aesthetics, ignoring the punk moniker, but I'll use it for ease of sakes. I
Huh?
love diesel punk. I love the look we see in things like
Last Exile.
yeah, Last Exile. I was thinking of that one assassin video game.
I'm trying to remember which one you're talking about. Uh
not
I'm
not
drawing a
as
blank.
not Assassin's Creed. Oh God, someone's gonna see it in the comments anyway. But anyway, that diesel punk aesthetic, especially the Warhammer 40K retro thing, like I love the look, the kind of military retro World War II look that we see in
Oh
the
yeah.
Wolfenstein games, the new
Oh
Wolfenstein games
yeah.
from Machine Games,
Hmm.
and also the first Captain America movie that was set in World War II, and you had the
Oh
retro
yeah.
technology. The other
Also
term
1920 plus. 1920 plus is really good too.
Yeah, the other one I like is Atomic Punk, which is like retro, but I don't like calling it like Atomic Punk. I prefer like Art Deco. Like I love the Art Deco sci-fi style.
yes.
We saw it really well just recently with the recent Fantastic Four film, which is the reason why I really love the aesthetic of that movie.
Oh yeah.
Um, but I really love like Art Deco sci-fi.
Hmm.
I don't like the term Atomic Punk. That kind of gets more like Sky Captain. Like I love Sky Captain. You want to see an old
Sky Captain,
classic.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. So I love that visual style. I
Mhm.
would love to play around with that. Like after Sparkplug, I'm doing another post-apocalyptic setting called Dream of the Tempest. I
Mm.
haven't figured out what aesthetically it's going to be. I'd like to play around with maybe an Art Deco style, but we'll have to see. It would be
Okay.
neat, but I don't know how to do a post-apocalyptic Art Deco without it just ripping off Fallout. Now
I have an
thinking about it
idea.
aloud, I don't know if I can do that.
I have an idea on what you could possibly do. Instead of it being like a nuclear war, it could have been like a magical like apocalypse and
Well, the Dream of
people.
the Tempest is specifically not a nuclear war, but it's hard to be apocalyptic in that way. Like,
Okay, I
yeah,
have an idea for something for Dream of the Tempest. And basically, chunks of land are pulled out of their native worlds and then flung into this planet by giant tempest storms. And because the geography is so volatile, people have to travel on skyships.
yeah,
And these ships look like something out of the 40s and 30s, and they use propellers or like early jet engines to propel these things, and they mine a material called crystarium, which basically floats or becomes buoyant when you apply electrical current to it.
hmm,
And different bands of altitude will require more energy to get to. So, like something like a submarine can go high altitude and hide in the cloud layers or the storms, and the sky ships have to stick to the lower bands so that way they're more fuel efficient.
yeah.
Just food for thought.
Victoriana 5e role playing in a time of revolution. I've never actually heard of this. Someone mentioned this in the comments.
Ooh, I'm
Um,
gonna have to take a look at it.
it raised 105,000 euros, so it raised about the same amount as Affinity. It's like yeah, steampunk. Never not heard of this setting. I mean, I like always saying the fact that Taurus was probably the first steampunk 5e setting, the same way that Amethyst was the first non-sci-fi or non-fantasy setting for 5e.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, obviously, that's the funny thing is the fact that in the same context, like with Sparkplug, I want to play around and do an extraction shooter because I don't think anyone's ever done that. Um, but yeah,
Yeah.
there's tons of people. Like, there's now hundreds. So whenever someone says you can't do non-fantasy with 5e, I was like, oh, geez, like check the room, buddy. That's
Yeah.
what that's what
You can do
everyone like.
non-fantasy.
There's it's not just one. There's hundreds of people doing it now. I always mention Hyperlanes, Gene Funk,
That's for Genesis
Esper Genesis because they were probably
or
the
Starfinder 5e.
yeah. But I always mention Esper, Hyperlanes, and Gene Funk because they were kind of at my
Yeah.
level. Like I came out first, and then they followed suit, and they were coming out with some really interesting and original ideas, and I really celebrate those ones specifically. I have never talked with the writer with the creators. I've never come out and really outright support them, but I've always had a deep respect for those games.
Oh yeah.
Not so much with Everyday Heroes, but that's another story entirely. Like I
Yeah.
said, and I do know some of these titles have ripped me off. Some people have told me that that this title is taken stuff from me. But that's commonplace. It's OGL. That's. So,
Yeah.
but anyway, we'll let go now because I have to pick up my wife. So
Okay.
hopefully, if this does well, maybe you and I will do this again in a week or two.
Oh,
And
I
this
would be
time,
down for that.
yeah, we'll talk about guns in a more. We'll actually
Yes.
go through the chapter And then
Also, another thing we should talk about is like Foundry and like I could go over like what I'm doing for the module.
yeah, we could do like weekly or bi-weekly
Oh,
updates.
hell yeah.
In that case, you could take the lead because I don't know I won't have any
Yes.
questions on that.
And it also gives me an excuse to actually work on the darn thing. So that way I got stuff to show people.
Yeah. So we'll leave it go from that. Like I said, I was hoping for 90 minutes. We're way over that. So I will leave it at that. We're 2 hours 20 minutes.
Right.
I hope you guys enjoy it. Thank you. We actually had quite a few people join up.
Yeah.
I like the fact that you're doing books for world building, and thanks. Yeah, I love world building. At the end of the day, I love creating the crunch, but I like doing the worlds more. So after Armoury, I'm going to do Sparkplug. After Sparkplug, I'm doing a player's book for Ultramodern, and then I'm doing Dream of the Tempest. So those are the next three books we're doing. But we'll leave it at that. Thank you for everybody, and thanks Alex for joining up.
Oh, thank you. Y'all have a good day. Bye-bye.
Take care. All right, we're ending that.